It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell, Alex Lindsay. They're all here. There's absolutely nothing to talk about, but there are some interesting rumors about how the HomePod may be changing. We have some interviews with Apple CEO and Jony Ive, and then Apple in Russia and China. Two very different experiences. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 929, recorded Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. Honkin down their Snorkel. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And despite the fact that there is zero news from Apple, we even have a Vision Pro segment. So prepare yourself. That is Andy Ihnatko laughing at me in the background. Hello, Andy.
Da-do-do-do, da-da-da-da is all I want to say to you, Leo.
Da-da-da-da. He is.
And we'll have time to say things like that because, again, there's very little news.
Right, from GBH in Boston. What do you do in GBH when there's nothing to say?
Mostly, we blame the current mayor for the meltdown of the MBTA. That's always...
It's all the big dig. The big dig ruined life.
Even if we're making it up, we just figure, hey, we're just getting ahead of the next story. It's very efficient.
Have you ever had a chili dog? What is it called? Io Adobiri was talking about this hot dog that's popular in Boston. I never had it. That's made of ice cream. Never. And I never even heard of it, but she apparently...
A counterpart to the Choco Taco, because the Choco Taco is perfection. You're a fool to go up against that.
Yeah, well, I think this is probably a regional delicacy that nobody has...
I will get to work preventing it from reaching my region.
Would you
my
please
region wants to not have...
Keep it out of Rhode Island. We've got better things to do. Also with us from officehours.global... Mr. Alex Lindsay, my personal consultant on all things streaming. Hello, Alex.
Hello. Good to be here.
It's good to be with you. You are using the camera that I'm planning to use in the new digs.
It works pretty well.
You're doing something similar to what we do. We're going to do. We decided on your recommendation, Zoom ISO, and we're going to tie it with Ecamm because Ecamm now supports Zoom, and it should be a fairly easy thing for an idiot like me to do. And I have moved this Dr. Evil chair. We had two. I have moved one to the attic.
There you go.
It looks beautiful up there.
The squirrels are going to love it.
How's it's been really hot last week. How's hot? You're going to get your own AC unit? 14,000 BTU. That's the key to the operation.
You told me last week. I know. And with us also from his home studio, the garage, or is it? You never know. Jason Snell.
You never know. You can look and see, but I am in the garage today. It's good to be here. And the moment that Leo announces at the top of the show that nothing is happening, I just want everybody to look down at the podcast app that they're using and see how
much
long this episode actually
exactly how much nothing there was.
Because the curse now has fallen upon us.
The over-under is now 23 minutes past our scheduled end.
Yeah, it's slid up from 90 minutes to 2 hours now. So thank you for cursing us, Leo.
Should we start with
happening?
I missed it, but it looks like it was interesting, the Jony Ive interview.
Yeah.
Did you put that in, Andy? That sounds really cool.
I put that in. So there's you've heard of Desert Island Discs? Yeah. This is not Desert Island Discs, even though it is totally Desert Island Discs. It's a very nice in-depth interview with Jony Ive in which he mentions here's 7 songs that I was listening to at certain points in my life, and it's a really nice overview of his life from his childhood through his work at Apple, both pre Steve Jobs, during Steve Jobs' tenure and afterward, and his future. Lots of really good, it's a substantive thing. He's not being protective of his thoughts at all. And you hear a lot of really, really interesting things about how, in the design of the iPod, that white earbuds weren't really a thing on audio. Usually it's like, black or something subtle, but he decided that not just as a promotional thing, but he wanted the person who's using the iPod to understand that because the iPod is white, the headphones are white too, because these are an intrinsic part of the device. And then later on, he came to appreciate that, it's really great because now I'm going on, first time I'm on the subway and I see like 3 or 4 people with these white headphones, earbuds that can't be anywhere else. And it made him feel really, really super happy.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because I was watching the bear last night, and Ayo Adebiri, we were just talking about it before the show, was wearing AirPod Pros. And I thought, wow, this is so iconic now that somebody can wear it. And it doesn't look like product placement. It's just, in fact, I imagine they had a debate. Well, should she wear some nondescript? No, everybody on the subway, everybody on the T is wearing AirPods. So not the wired ones, and they're white. They're very distinctive. Yeah, it was a smart move on his part. Good branding move. So his 7 not desert island disc. By the way, this is from the San Francisco Standard, which I have never heard of. Sophie Bierman, but I think I'm going to start listening.
It's a good interview. Yeah. And if you want to listen to it, there's a full transcript on the same site. So
and a Spotify playlist so you can listen to the 7 songs. Da do 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 da 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 from the Police. Did I do that correctly? The main theme from Carter Takes a Train by Roy Budd. Papa. Now, is this going to get us taken down if I just say the names?
No.
I'm so skittish. Papa, the minute I pay 2 notes of that, though, boom, we're gone. Papa was a Rolling Stone by the Temptations. Don't you forget about me, Simple Minds. Define Dancing by Thomas Newman. Not his obvious hit.
Well, that's from WALL-E. The WALL-E soundtrack. It's one of the score.
So there's a little Disney tracks. Loyalty here from the former Apple employee.
It's kind of funny because he starts talking about it was a very good interview that can basically not ask and answer their own questions. You know what I mean, or not prompt the subject. Say,
I hate
please
that.
tell the story about this.
Yeah, the worst interviewee.
I bet that if I ask him in context about this movie and his relationship with Steve Jobs, there'll be an interesting response. He said, it was a little bit like I designed these 2 robots, and one of them was like kind of old and been around for ages, and another one was kind of fresh and new, and felt a little bit like me and Steve. Like, that's even more heartbreaking now.
Aww. So how many Desert Island discs did you get? I don't think you got 7.
5, I think.
I don't remember. So he's got 2 more, 40 by U2 and Ivy's This Is the Day. You know what? This is is it just my lack
Ivy's
of
good.
8 tracks? Sorry, it's eight tracks on Desert Island.
Ivy's really good. That's great.
See, I don't know these.
Johnny.
Yeah, I follow you, Jason Snell, on iTunes because I figure you know more about music than I do, being about 5 years younger. So, no, I'm teasing. Quite a bit younger, actually.
20,
I know
30 years younger.
30? No. Don't
let's
kid
go with
yourself.
40 years younger.
Yeah.
I was just a little.
You were a lad during the screensavers when you'd appear on Call for Help. Yeah.
On planets in very, very outside orbits where the orbits take a lot longer than they do on Earth. Yes, I am DT.
Today on Call for Help, the 4-year-old Jason Snell will tell us how to clean your bowels.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
When I was a baby.
Prodigy.
Yep, that's totally no. That's good. I mean, Jony Ive, I appreciate it. Thank you for following me on Apple Music. I appreciate that.
I do. I trust you.
My daughter. One of my proudest things is that my daughter thinks I have a good taste in music, and that is how that is possible. I don't know, but I won that one, so that's good.
Give her some time, Dad.
Yeah, I mean she's in her 20s now.
That's
I think
true.
we did it.
Yeah.
Or either way, it speaks well of you, Jason, because either like you have great taste in music that you've been able to share with your daughter and have that kind of bond, or you've raised a daughter that is amazingly empathic and says, you know what? It will make old young man feel great if I say that I love his boogie woogie 1940s songs.
Either way.
So the question that you highlighted, Andy, is, so what song marks the time in your life working as Apple's head of design before Steve Jobs is back at Apple? To which Johnny says, I chose a song that I think is sort of slightly angry, slightly sad, which I do think describes where I was. It's Simple Minds. Don't you forget about me. Are they all fairly old songs, or they say you lose?
Most of them are.
You get frozen in time in your musical tastes in your late 20s. But this, there's nothing. Is Ivy new or no? I don't know.
That's Apartment Life, so that's 1997. That's relatively. I mean, it's not.
Thank you, Jason Snell, for the detail.
Apartment Life.
Apartment Life.
That's a good. It's here. Ivy is the other band that Adam Schlesinger, who was in Fountains of Wayne, did.
I love Fountains of Wayne, so
with
I will listen.
Female vocalist, and it's really good. Yeah,
this is why I follow you on iTunes.
Yeah, so somebody Jony Ive works with was playing Apartment Life in 1997.
Exactly.
Like, what's that? And that sounds picked that up from the kids.
So wonderful. Well, there you go. That was our top story. Now it's all rumors. Actually, I had a great piece I found from arno.org that answered a question I've had a lot of time. This guy Arno was in 1999, right about the same time as Ivy was publishing her famous album. Whatchamacallit?
Apartment Life.
Apartment Life. He was technical lead for the Finder, the OS X Finder at Apple. He has a great story. At the time, the Finder code base was 8 years old. Remember, it had come to them from Next, and had reached the end of its useful life. Making any changes to it required huge engineering effort. And any change usually broke 2 or 3 seemingly unrelated features. So, for OS X, we decided to rewrite the Finder from scratch. And part of what they wanted to do is separate the user interface from the back end. The back end of the Finder enumerates files, watches for changes in the file system, deals with metadata, including icon locations, folder settings. The 2 components were known as Finder FE, front end, and Finder BE, back end. However, we soon started realizing the Finder back end would be useful outside of the Finder. Therefore, this is something that didn't happen. A plan was hatched to someday make it available as a public API. Okay. Since I had previously been responsible for naming icon services and navigation services, we decided to go with desktop services. Now we're starting to see. At the time, we were also considering renaming the Finder to desktop, hence the name of .ds, desktop services, _store, which stands for the desktop services store. The dot hides it, which you probably know files that begin with a dot aren't visible unless you turn that on. Personally, I don't think it's a great name. I wish we'd gone with something more descriptive, but it's too late for that. And that's why. Oh, and it wasn't intended that there be a DS store in every gosh darn place on your Mac. If you hide dot files, you may not know this, but as soon as you see the dot files, you go, oh my God, there's DS stores. My sync thing is synchronizing DS stores. There's an unfortunate bug, he says, it's not fixed to this day, that results in an excessive creation of the .ds store file. The file should only be created if the user makes adjustments to the view settings or sets a manual location for icons on a folder. Unfortunately, no, every folder's going to get a .ds store. So now you know, and you can blame this guy, Arno. Mm-hmm. Now you know why it happened. He actually has a pretty good blog of Apple lore.
This is a good window into that era in the late 90s, right before, as they were building the first versions of OS X, late 90s and 2000, 2001, about all the different ways that they needed to justify and kind of like fit together classic Mac OS concepts with Next Step, because Next Step was very Unixy, much more than, and Mac OS wasn't at all the classic Mac OS, and they had to make some decisions. So some decisions that we now think of as innately Mac, like the dock, didn't exist in the old Mac OS, but then there were other things like the menu bar, which did, and they had to decide like what to keep, what to add. The multi-column browser was a Next Step thing that Steve Jobs really liked.
Loved that.
It's in the Finder now, but it never was before. It was list and icon view only. They added that in, and they had to do a bunch of
OS,
so they had to do a bunch of stuff where they're kind of like, how do we reconcile these two different concepts of it's a Mac versus it's Next Step, which is, Next Step wasn't the branding, but it was the underlying architecture, and then Mac was the branding and the identity of the vast majority of users who would be using this OS going forward were coming from the Mac side, because almost nobody used Next Step. So they had to make lots of weird decisions. where is there an Apple menu? They had it in the middle for a while of the menu bar, which is super weird. And then finally they're like, okay, we're going to put it over on the left. And it's what we now think of as the Apple menu, which is very different from what the classic macOS Apple menu was. And they had to deal with Unix file systems, and they had to deal with things like the type and creator, the resource fork, the type and creator versus file name extensions for file type. Lots of this stuff. And the DS Store is a great little behind the scenes. This is a great story, Leo. I really appreciate it. Of like, well, what do we do with this metadata? And they were like,
make a file.
Yeah, write a file.
Make a file.
It's invisible. It'll be fine. And like, there were thousands of decisions like this, some of which fell away because of this bug. DS Store has stayed. But it is fascinating because it is the maybe best, if not only, example of this two very strong OS traditions, both stemming from Steve Jobs, that in the year 2000, 99, 98, in there, they had to make like so many decisions about what that new Mac OS would be. And now it's, 25 years later. And it is, I mean, it's been around way longer than the original Mac OS at this point. But they had to make those weird decisions. And some of them, like DS Store, they never went away. So
Arno is Arno Goodall, who started at Adobe, went to Apple, and is now retired. I'm sure got some Apple stock options and traveling the world. He also writes about Steve Jobs. I didn't know this. He says Steve always had to have somebody escort him around the campus because he refused to carry a card key. So somebody always had to let him in.
Sounds like him.
That's very Steve Jobs. He also has an article about something I've never seen before, the PenMac. This was PowerBook Duo era. And Arno, I guess, wrote the software for this tablet that never saw the light of day. Project code was Penlight. Interestingly, in a little kind of coincidence, the photo here is from Marshan Wickery, the guy who Glenn Fleischman worked with to create that beautiful book.
Shift Happens. Great book.
So I guess Marshan somewhere found one of these to write about it. Maybe it's from the book, actually. Do you remember this, Andy? Did you know about the PenMac?
Yeah, it was one of those ideas that was floating around. I remember of it. Also, I was actually trying to find it as you started talking, but one turned up on eBay or something, and there's some YouTube videos of a guy who got it and restored it to actually working condition. Wow,
that's cool.
And I'm going to see if I can find it.
Apple canceled the project in August '93 in favor of the Newton.
Yeah.
Arno says, we were all sad, but that experiment showed the limitations of repurposing a traditional desktop user interface. A lesson Apple has not stopped learning, right? They don't want to put touch on the Mac OS. They believe it should be a dedicated touch OS.
Yeah. Also, great little aside in here that they demoed this in 1993 to the guys from San Diego at was it Silicon Beach Software? It's Smart Sketch, which became Future Wave, which became Future Splash Animator. I remember it. It was really a cool program, and Adobe Macromedia snatched it and renamed it to Flash.
Oh my God.
But it was one of those things, like if you used Barney Scan XP, you get to say forever, I used Photoshop before it was Photoshop.
Yep.
And this is just like that, which is if you use Future Splash Animator, you can say, I used Flash before everybody hated this.
Wow. Poor Flash, because in its early days, it was amazing, right? It was the only thing you could do on the web that would give you all this animation and liveliness.
It was a solution to a real problem. It made the web something other than GIFs and texts. And there's an entire legacy of gaming that happened because of Flash. Yeah. It's not just about punching the monkey in a bad a banner ad. I'm so glad that these things get preserved because, again, it's like imagine a film format that made it incredibly influential movies, but because like all that stock burned up, nobody can cite the original references anymore. It's for as much as Steve Jobs decided to rail against it because it was inconvenient, it was a very, very important part of history.
We, as some of you know, we now have actual chat in a variety of different locales because we are streaming not just to YouTube Live and Discord, but we're now also streaming to Kick, Twitch, even X.com. And we have somebody, which is kind of interesting, in our YouTube channel named Jonathan Gibson, who says he worked on the PenMac briefly.
Nice.
He says it cost too much and they had to wait until screens got cheaper, as in the iPad and the iPhone. That's very
cool. And I think that
cool.
one of the things that's interesting is when you see a lot of these innovations, and especially in the 90s, when you saw a lot of ideas that we're using now, but they didn't quite make it out. And you realize how all the ingredients have to be in one place at one time. Like it has to be, the pricing and the production and all the different pieces. And a lot of times we see technologies that by themselves kind of grow up to be a little tree and then they die because the other nutrients weren't there to make it happen. It just wasn't the right time. And then they slowly kind of oftentimes come back and we're like, why didn't we do it back then? Well, because exactly what he said. It was expensive and LCDs weren't where they are now. And, there's a whole bunch of other things that needed to happen.
Even the Newton was really more of a experiment than a useful tool. But you could kind of see in the Newton, wow, there's something here. It's just not. We're just times aren't.
It's
right.
It's yet. Like it's like the Palm, and the idea of the Newton is way too expensive. It's way too hard to develop software for it. Way too expensive to develop software for it. And so that's how like Palm or the precursors of Palm like got in there and helped to bury Newton. Newton helped to show everybody that wow, there really is something to a much more portable device than a laptop that you interact with a pen. Like if you get rid of the keyboard and open up that real estate for just more screen, there's a lot of potential there. Palm came in and said, yeah, but it can't be that. It can't be as expensive as that. And then they were well poised because of expansion slots to take advantage of mobile internet. As weak as it was, once you had a PDA that could connect to the internet, once you could send not just text messages but emails, that really underscored that we need to make something like the Palm Pilot that is built around broadband. And then when Wi-Fi came along, really Newton was so ahead of its time. A lot like the Next Cube. It's like so many great ideas that would prove to be exactly what the future computing was, but it existed in a time where it just wasn't relevant, or you couldn't really take advantage of all the potential that was there. So it's, again, interesting to note the history, but also to note that the timing has to be right. Getting back to that person who's restoring that PenMac, I was really excited once it got started to see what kind of software was on it. And I was super, super disappointed that whatever state it was in when it, I don't know, whatever state it was in, like when it left hands, was basically standard Mac OS with extensions to make the pen work as a mouse. And I don't know if that was like, if I don't know if it got wiped and at some point somebody installed like new software or whatever, but if that was what they were going to go with, there's no reason to believe that it would have ever succeeded, because this would have been an opportunity for Apple to reimagine Mac OS as something that could work with touch or work with a stylus as well as something else. I mean, I won't go into it again, but I have so much admiration for material design on Android, because they managed to make the kind of choices that say that when this is being used, when this app is being used on a phone, it looks like a phone OS that's being used for touch. When it's on a laptop sort of thing, it actually, or when you attach a keyboard and a mouse to a tablet, without making any changes whatsoever, it feels instinctively like a mouse and keyboard operating system. That's the sort of thing that Apple could have done. That's the thing they would have to have done to make something like that reasonable.
Yeah. This is Thomas Gillies' YouTube channel. He only has 19 subscribers, but this is a video from 2012 showing exactly what you just described, which is the Mac OS of the time, with a touch layer. And this is why Apple doesn't do it, I think, because the targets have to be adjusted. Everything has to be adjusted. This is made for a mouse, very clearly.
Yeah.
There's actually, if you search for PenMac, there's quite a few videos about PenMacs. That's kind of neat.
I wonder how many of them they made, because that implies that there were, because the ones that we're seeing are of, as a physical object, they look like very finished objects, like they look like, oh, well, yeah, did you forget that that Apple actually like sold a couple 100,000 of these? Because they're still out there. They don't look like rough adaptations of a PowerBook Duo. It looks like it could have been a shippable, finished sort of thing. Right. Inside, when they take this apart, it does look pretty rough. There are a whole bunch of bodge wires, and let's just get this to fit inside the case that was designed so well. But on the outside, it does look like something that would, when you go to Sears, which is where you went to buy apples at Slim, you would want to take a look at it and pick it up, and would of course be broken.
Yeah, Tyler, who knows nothing, in our YouTube channel says he thinks it was a modified PowerBook 5XX. Which it looks like a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the one that I saw has the Duo dock at the bottom of it.
Oh, there you go.
So I don't know if that's I obviously don't have as much information as he does.
Right.
But from the video, it makes sense because the Duo was designed to be slim enough form factor you could actually slide it into a slot like a floppy disk and connect it to the monitor and the keyboard later on. So. Makes sense. We
are so happy that all of you are watching live MacBreak Weekly. Of course, you can watch after the fact as well on the Twit network at twit.tv/MBW or subscribe in your favorite podcast player. But we like having this live audience. So thank you to all of you joining us on the various platforms. This is something we're going to start doing now, I think, for every live show. I'm hoping anyway. We'll see. Thanks to the folks at Restream who are making this possible. Our show today, we'll get back to more with our guests, Jason Snell, Andy Ihnatko. Guests? Did I say guests? You're not our guests. You're our best friends and buddies, our co-hosts.
Oh, thank you.
Jason Snell, Andy Ihnatko, Alex Lindsay. Our show today brought to you by an old friend, actually. I'm really thrilled when I talked to the folks from Experts Exchange. I used Experts Exchange for years, and I guess I kind of lost track of them. But this is, in fact, better than ever, a network of trustworthy, talented, real people, tech professionals that you can go to for industry insights, for advice from people who are actually using the products in your stack. Don't pay for expensive enterprise-level support that is of varying quality. Get the tech community for people tired of the AI sellout. Experts Exchange. They are ready. They say, I love this too, to carry the fight for the future of human intelligence. You never know what you're going to get when you ask an AI a question. And a lot of AI materials digested from a variety of sources on the internet. Experts Exchange has been with us for years now with real experts who are incented to help you out. Professionals in over 400 different fields. Coding, they're Microsoft experts, DevOps, and more. They don't, sometimes you'll go to one of these other places and you'll get snarked to death. Why are you asking that? Not Experts Exchange. They're friendly. They don't mind duplicate questions. Their contributors are tech junkies like you and me. One member said, I've never had GPT stop and ask me a question before. That happens on Experts Exchange all the time. They're proudly committed to fostering a community where human collaboration is fundamental. I like this idea. Let's get the humans back, shall we? Consider some of the experts in here. I mean, real experts. A Security Now listener we know of, Rodney Barnhart. He's a VMware V-expert. An ethical hacker and Microsoft MVP, Edward Van Biljon. Cisco design professionals, executive IT directors, and more. And whether you're a hobbyist, an IT professional, a CSO, a CISO, or a CIO, or even a CEO, if you've got questions, you will be welcomed into the community, and the answers will be there. Very high quality answers. And by the way, I want to tell you, while all these other platforms are selling their content to train AI models, at Experts Exchange, your privacy is not for sale, because they stand against the betrayal of contributors worldwide. They have never and will never sell your data, your content, or your likeness. They block and strictly prohibit AI companies from scraping content from their site to train their LLMs. Moderators prevent and forbid the direct use of LLM content in the threads. You're talking to humans. It's for humans by humans. The supreme reward for becoming an expert is the satisfaction you get when you pass that knowledge on to somebody else who needs it. It's why we do what we do here. Experts deserve a place where they can confidently share their knowledge without worrying about somebody stealing it, a corporation stealing it to increase shareholder value. Humanity deserves a safe haven from AI. Join Experts Exchange today. Now, they understand, they know that you probably go, well, like I did. I used it a long time ago. Is it still good? So they're going to give you 90 days, 3 months free. You don't even need a credit card. So I just invite you. Everybody has times when they go, well, how do I wire this up? What is the command for this? Or can you help me write or find a library to write some code? You could do that at Experts Exchange. 90 days free, no credit card required. e-e.com/ Twit. When they called, Lisa said, have you ever heard of Experts Exchange? I said, heard of it. I said, I lived on it for years. Well, it's back, baby. Actually, they never left. 90 days free. Find out what everybody's talking about. Experts Exchange. Get the answers you really want. e-e.com/twit. Dr. Dew's asking in our Discord if they still do the point system. They do. They do. So they have a really good system of encouraging experts to answer and credit for giving good answers. So, it's funny. It's like an old friend. You get back on there, you go, wow, I missed you. e-e.com/twit. Thank you, Experts Exchange. Welcome to the Twit family. Great to have you on board. All right, now we got to talk about the bad stuff, the epic stuff. All right. So Apple it's a kind of an off and on thing. Epic complained last week, Apple won't let us be on the App Store in the EU, even though they're supposed to, because they say our buttons look too much like them. Then Apple says, okay, fine, and approves it. They approve Epic Games. It's not on the App Store. It's an actual store, right? I don't know. We don't live in Europe.
Yeah, it's a store.
And then Epic is still pissed off. So I don't. That's Epic, isn't it? In a nutshell.
Well, I think the bottom line is Apple keeps on dragging its feet, and Epic is hyperbolic.
Right? They want to move.
Epic has learned we're just going to yell at the top of our lungs all the time, and what they're and so eventually they're going to find what most parents find is if you yell at the top of your lungs all the time, you have to yell at the top of your lungs all the time. So, but they are, they're hyperbolic about everything. Apple is going slower than they could go on all of those things. I mean, I think that the button issue, I think, is really Apple not wanting it to look like their site to make sure that if something goes wrong, you're really clear where you were.
Yeah. But Epic says, hey, look, everybody uses the word install. Everybody uses the words in-app purchases. Apple's complaining about that. Those are naming conventions. Apple says you can't make certain buttons and labels similar to those in the App Store. Not having seen what they're proposing or what Apple's rejection says, it's hard for us to guess. This is a Reuters story.
It does sound like, as much as I'd like to think that this is I like a good rhubarb, especially when a rhubarb can escalate into a Donnybrook. I'm a big fan of that. But this just sounds like they find themselves stuck in the usual miasma of App Store approvals, which is Apple rejected my app for a reason that doesn't make sense because they've approved other apps that do the same thing. But now for some reason, because somebody didn't get enough protein at lunch or whatever, it's been rejected for that reason. And I have to keep resubmitting until they decide that I've had a good steak for lunch, and now I'm open mind to interpret this rule more broadly. And this is something that everybody seems to go through. So I don't know if it is malice. I'm guessing it isn't, but it really is illustrating once again one of the big problems of the App Store, which is it can seem so arbitrary and so frustrating when you've got so much lined up with. We chose to launch in July for a very, very good reason, and now we can't launch in July for reasons that Apple won't explain to us, and we don't know when we're going to be able to launch. So we're missing out on all these opportunities we thought we were going to have by picking our date. So
it may be a foofara or a kerfuffle. We don't know.
But if you're going to make pie, use rhubarb.
Sure.
Can you please?
We're not quite sure yet. We're not listing into the. So I think Alex. Honestly, this could be a very short show because I think Alex encapsulated it perfectly, which is Epic is going to complain and make a big deal. They've seen some results of that, although they've also lost a bunch of court cases, but they're going to make a thing of it. And the other side of it is that Apple is dragging its feet. And my problem with this is the global problem here, which is when Apple introduced its whole cryptographic system of verifying apps and signing them and approving them through Gatekeeper, this whole notarization process. They did it for the Mac like 6 years ago. They said at the time, this is not a way for us to get the Mac App Store to exist outside the Mac App Store on the Mac. This is just a security scan. Now for Europe, for iOS, they said, okay, we're going to have to do something like that, notarization for Europe, but we have to do more than we do on the Mac because it's not the Mac, it's iOS, and there's a higher level of security. So we're going to do additional human level security checking and approval, and it's going to take a little bit longer. But it's all, the context was supposed to be it's notarization. It's for a very specific limited scope that they're allowed by the regulators without being a gatekeeper. And my concern, if you listen to Riley Testoot of AltStore say that they've had Apple dragging its feet on a bunch of things, if you listen to the developers of those emulators who said that Apple refused to notarize those emulators for the EU, and now for Epic, what I see is a pattern of behavior, which is Apple turning this thing that is supposed to be a neutral, security-focused thing, notarization, which is a very good system to keep their users safe, and trying to import more arbitrary App Store policies into it. And the danger is that what's going to happen is that, and maybe Apple wants this, I don't know, is that the European regulators are going to say, you've ruined, congratulations, Apple, you've ruined notarization. And without notarization, it really is more dangerous, vastly more dangerous than the notarization system that Apple uses just for the Mac. So that's what bugs me about it is, look, Epic is going to do their thing. They're going to be annoying. They're going to complain about everything. It's self-serving. I am a little worried about the fact that Apple is taking this notarization process and applying seemingly arbitrary App Store kind of judgments when it's not supposed to be that.
It's, I am a little sympathetic to Apple because their trade dress is, of course, very important to them. Remember last week, the kerfuffle, tiff, Donnybrook over Figma AI. Andy Allen, who is the guy behind Not Boring Software, asked Figma's AI designer to design a not boring weather app, and it looked, almost identical to Apple's weather app, so much so that Figma decided to pull the tool. I don't know if Apple complained or not, but it's an issue. On the other hand, you can also make the case with this weather app, just as Epic has, that, well, there's kind of a standard for weather apps. I mean, you're showing the temperature, you're showing the range. I mean, there's not a lot of variation. There might be kind of a standard, kind of natural way to show weather. You don't want people to have to do everything unnaturally, because Apple's the first to do it naturally, or has trademarked the natural expression of something.
And it sounds like this is things like an install or a buy or an open button that you would find in an app store or an app marketplace, and that Epic has said they're not trying to make people think they're in, trick them into being in the app store. And of course, you've got to go through a whole long stretch of things to install on an alternative app marketplace. So there really shouldn't be a lot of misunderstanding going on there. And again, I think it's fair that maybe Epic is up to doing weird ploys here, and that Apple is being more of a stickler than maybe they should because they don't trust them at all. I think those are absolutely reasonable. It just bugs me, this idea that the whole purpose of this alternative app stores and all of that is to get out, to let people, if they choose, get outside of Apple's system of approval. And what we see is Apple saying, actually, no, it doesn't. And the problem with that is that the regulators can come in and say, well, that you can't do it that way. But
I think that also, I think there is probably an effort by Epic. I mean, you can use the same words, but how the button looks and how it operates and everything else feels different between many different.
Does Apple own rounded corners?
No. But the point is that I think that Apple
argued that they did. Sorry, Samsung.
Apple.
Right.
I think wants it to be very clear so that you don't suddenly, there's a lot to get into that thing, but it could get to a point where you don't remember where you bought it.
Right.
And what Apple probably knows is that the type of developer that is going to develop outside of the Apple, App Store experience is probably going to be a little bit more edgy, and there's probably going to be more, either Epic is going to have to clamp down pretty hard, or people are going to get taken advantage of, or things are going to happen bad. And I think Apple wants to make sure that people are really clear that you were in over here. And so that when you have that bad experience, you'll connect it to that app store. I think that's what Apple's trying to, I think if Epic had made buttons that looked completely different than the app store, Apple would have let it go through without stopping it, because I think they just want it to look different. They just want it to look different so that you're clear that when you get screwed up by it, you're clear of where you got screwed up by it, and that, because Apple, I guarantee, is planning PR around it. Like it's going to be a problem, and they're planning to bash this store the moment anything major happens with an app on the store.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. It's difficult. I guess
any of us would do that. I mean, maybe not any.
You got to protect your trademarks.
Yeah. If you told me to do something that I don't want to do, I mean, I would do it. I would drag my feet as slow as possible. Yeah, I am not like you told me something I really, really don't want to do, so now I'm going to do it. Everyone who pays their taxes goes, I think I'm just going to pay all the taxes that the IRS told me to do. I'm not going to go to anyone to try to figure out any way to pay any less taxes because I want to pay all the taxes. I mean, that's the same as, like everyone, no one wants to do more than they have to. And Apple's going to keep on going, I'm not going to do more than I have to.
Yeah.
And that's what you can be guaranteed is that when you're telling someone to do something that they don't want to do, they're not going to do more than they have to, and so the government can try to do it. But the problem the government's going to find out, and what they already found out, is that you start micromanaging all this stuff, and Apple can just keep on. I mean, you look at the AI stuff. Many companies do not release many products in many regions for many reasons. And so it's going to be very hard for them to just go, well, you have to release everything that you make into the EU. And so all of this starts to get sticky. And the bottom line is that the EU and Epic have got their hands into this gooey mess, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it. And it's going to be very hard for it to actually get somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's just to me, it's just the really natural amount of difficulty when you go from having no regulation whatsoever to suddenly having rules that a company having to operate by rules that they did not create themselves based on like what their own internal management and production is set up to do. So yeah, there are going to be some problems. There's going to be some problems with a company like Apple legitimately not knowing if something they plan to do is legit or not according to these new rules, or just I'm going to try to declare my new $10,000 sofa as a dependent, and now it's up to the IRS to find out that little settee is not actually a 3-year-old child, that it's actually a sofa. I think Apple is going to try to do kind of both, and and you're absolutely right. I mean, they're very well motivated to try to do stuff like this, because despite the fact that the EU is definitely honking down their snorkel in a way that they are not going to appreciate, they are also not. They're not trying to develop a new feature that their customers have been raging at them to give them. It's not like well, look, we have to have this new camera feature out because people want to be able to record a 4K 60 frame per second video. So we have to do what we have to do to make this happen. Whereas Apple knows that, look, if we drag our feet to make sure that we can maintain as many of our own objectives as possible, including making sure that everybody who uses our phones knows the difference between using the Apple App Store and anything that is not the Apple App Store. They're definitely going to go through that procedure, which is not something that I fault them for at all.
Can we make honking down their snorkel the new Hawk Tua?
I thought it should be the new one. I just want to say that's a title. We have a title.
Honking down the snorkel. Did you make that up, Andy, or is that a common term around the Rhode Island
that is
area?
from like a season 2 or season 3 episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, in which the Mads call in and Joel says, "Oh, the mad scientists are barking down my snorkel," and then like answers the call.
It's a really good.
I've been using that.
It's a very evocative image. Yeah,
yes,
I like it. By the way, credit to Dylan Field, the CEO of Figma, who immediately, I mean, obviously they don't want to piss off human designers. That's their business. But they immediately took it down. He apologized. He took responsibility for it. So
there's probably a couple of Figma users at Apple.
Yeah.
So
but we didn't hear that Apple of any official Apple complaint. I think Field responded immediately to Andy Allen's tweet.
I'm saying he's probably sensitive to it, though.
Oh, of course he's sensitive.
Probably sensitive. Like, hey, we've got X number of users at Apple. Let's not do this. Like, whatever we're doing here, and it's easy. It's very easy for companies to, someone lower down is just they're in the tunnel of just doing the thing that they're doing and probably not even thinking about that. And it gets up to the CEO, and the CEO will be like, "Why were we doing this?" And it's just one of those. This happens all the time.
Yeah. Here's just in case you were curious, Andy Allen's tweet. On the left, this is the official Apple app. And on the right, the 3 different attempts he made with Figma AI. Honestly, though, I mean, if you've got this form factor and you're going to be telling people the weather, I don't have to. I mean, how many different ways can you do it?
Yeah.
So, but to Figma's credit, they didn't want to. They said, no, we're going to fix that, and they've pulled it down. So,
Carrot will tell you dirty jokes and then give you the weather.
Yeah,
so that's
it'll make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah,
and then tell you to take a jacket.
I have set Carrot to be as an absolutely obnoxious.
I have it turned all the way up.
Yeah, all
which
the
means
way
I can't have audio on. I cannot have audio on when I go to the Carrot app if anyone's around because I don't know what's going to come out of its mouth. You know, it's one of those problem children.
It must know we're talking about it because I just opened it and it said, "It's sunny, enjoy." That's not the Carrot I know and love. You know what else you won't be able to get in Apple's App Store? In Russia, you won't be able to get 25 new VPN services. Apple has pulled them down, according to Interfax, following a request by Russia's state communications watchdog, Roskomnadzor, the FCC of Russia. So this has happened in China, and it's happened. According to Interfax, demand for VPN, actually this is a Reuters story, demand for VPN services soared in Russia right after Putin ordered troops into Ukraine. And at that time, the authorities restricted access to some Western social media. Obviously, people in Russia wanted to see it, so they launched their VPNs. Russian communications watchdog Roskomnadzor has already blocked access to some large VPNs, but these 25 apps on the App Store, gave people an out.
Yeah, the makers of one of them is called Red Shield, and it's not a Russian-owned company. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to operate that way. But it's not like the board is run by like Russian nationals or Russian expats. And they posted, they're pretty salty about it. Their explanation is that like Roskomnadzor had been
Andy,
trying to shut
you're
them down
Russian heritage. You should be able to say it perfectly.
Carpathian Russian. It's different. We're the gentle people who make horses out of cheese. Okay, and dye eggs. We don't. We're not into impression quite so much.
Whenever I have to pronounce a Russian word, I just put on the Russian egg. I sound like Boris Bednov, and then it comes out normal. Roskomnadzor.
I do talk a good game because a long time ago, as a prank, I learned how to sing the Soviet national anthem.
Wow!
And so whenever like I need to fake Russian, I'll say It was basically to make someone. I was a teenager, and I thought that it would make someone feel very, very bad if I sang it. But anyway,
the only Russian I knew was from Yuri Gagarin. Sputnika Vostok, говорит Москва. Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin, Sputnika Vostok. I don't know.
Yani Gavarut Paruski. It means I don't speak Russian.
Yes.
That's a useful one. That's a useful one. Yeah.
Niet.
Yes.
Niet. That's what I know.
I also know, because of Tom Clancy novels, I also know a very, very bad curse in Russian.
Oh, good. Thank you, Tom.
But other than that, I will not say that.
Evidently, I'm told that if you just walk around saying "I'm in the machine," it's a
I got that. Thank you for the reference. I'll give you a receipt that your reference was gotten by somebody. But yeah, so basically they're pretty salty about it, saying that like that Russia was not able to shut them down on their own as much as they tried by trying to shut down their access points. And so this must have been a specific interaction between the government and Russia. On the blog post, they say I think they quote or reproduce Apple's email to them saying that our app, quote, solicits, promotes, or encourages criminal or clearly reckless behavior, unquote. And so Red Shield is saying Apple is actively supporting, I'm quoting here, actively supporting an authoritarian regime. This is not just reckless, but a crime against civil society.
Well, that's a good question.
They own that business, so
Apple's got to follow the laws of the country that it's in.
Yeah, it's a hard line to walk. I think that every time that Apple accedes to a request like that, they do have to be called out about it. It does have to be acknowledged. But even like human rights organizations say that if Apple, not specifically about Apple, but they've spoken about this idea about if a communications company like is being told to censor content to users in a country where people are not totally free by our free speech standards. It's not necessarily the right thing for that company to say, well, guess what? We're not doing this anymore because we stand for things. Because, again, according to human rights organizations, they're saying that a company like Apple can actually still serve a very, very important role to those users in that country who are still reliant on their communications infrastructure. Maybe they won't be able to access a VPN, but they will still be able to talk to each other via messages, via whatever other tools that the government is not necessarily clamping down on yet. So again, always. The only time it really gets up my nose when Apple does something like this is when it's bad timing, and it happens like 2 weeks after some executive has had some sort of interview with the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal about how, those Google, Facebook, they don't care about privacy and personal rights. We're the only people who care about that. It's like, okay, you can tone it down a little bit. If you really believe that privacy is like sacrosanct and non-negotiable, you should basically tell China and Turkey and Russia and these other companies to go stick it. I think it's more likely to simply say that there are times where we have to play ball in order to serve our users that we want to serve, and there are times when it's a terrible situation and we really do have to come out. Like, they're not. I'm sure that if China or Russia said, by the way, Apple, you now have to introduce like a new version of iOS for Russian phones, that's iPhones, that allows the government to eavesdrop on anything at any time. That would be okay, guess what? We're taking our ball and going home. Because if they acceded to that, they would be like, okay, we are evil. We just like Russian money.
The difference is that between Russia and China here is that Apple already pulled out of Russia. And I think I would say, they need to follow the law if they're going to continue to maintain like the App Store in Russia. But I would say the decision to maintain the App Store in Russia is a decision to not to do a solid for Putin. It's a decision to support their users, right? They stopped selling. Yeah. They stopped selling iPhones. They pulled out of Russia after the invasion of Ukraine, but they do continue to maintain the store. It does allow the users to still use their iPhones and have them be useful. And in doing so, they have to comply with the laws. So when the Russian government says a VPN is criminal activity, they have to say,
okay,
it's criminal activity. Right. But I think Andy makes a good point that their alternative was to walk away from those people. And they have chosen apparently not to do that. And I commend them for that, as well as from walking away from Russia in general and whatever money was in that market after the invasion.
Compare it to what's happening in China. So remember, Google walked away from China, and Microsoft has now told all of its Chinese staff that they may not use Android phones because of the inaccessibility of the Play Store in China. They feel it's insecure. They're requiring, as of September, that all Chinese Microsoft employees use iPhones.
Yeah,
and they're
because
go ahead, Andy.
Specifically because like they deploy apps to their employees for security and privacy, and they're not going to trust any of the Android app stores that are operating in China for reasons.
Right.
And because there's no official app store for Google in China, they're saying nope, you can't use anything. Congratulations, you just got yourself a free iPhone 15. Pick it up at the desk on your way in or out.
But I imagine September might be because the 16 is coming out. Hey, we can all upgrade to 16.
Microsoft says any staff using Android headsets, including devices made by Huawei or Xiaomi, both the number 1 and 2 Android devices in China, will be provided with an iPhone 15 as a one-time purchase. They're gonna have to buy it. The company will make iPhones available for collection at various hubs across China, including Hong Kong, which is interesting because Google services are available in Hong Kong. Employees may continue to use Android phones for personal use. This is Microsoft more focusing on its own security, which frankly has been pretty awful.
And I think the thing when we thought that the government was over reacting to Huawei, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Like, there's a lot of concern that you keep on rolling out of like, hey, let's not have any Huawei hardware in our system. So. Yeah.
That was more about 5G networks because they were like a major international provider.
Yeah, they voluntarily pulled the phones. It wasn't the government. Yeah.
But that's another interesting part of all this, because trade embargoes started hitting during the Trump administration, it really crippled a company like Huawei, because now they can't do business with American companies. They can't get access to chip manufacturing technologies, or they can't basically license these designs, and so they can't manufacture chips that are nearly as good as anything you'd find on a flagship Samsung, Google, or Apple phone. But now they're starting to sort of pull themselves together. Huawei, for instance, is doing kind of a double whammy, where I think they just released in betas to certain developers a brand new operating system that has no code whatsoever from Android or any other source, entirely self-created with an entirely new kernel that they can basically do whatever they want with, because again, that involves no other technology. It'll be maintained exclusively inside China with its own app stores and all that sort of stuff. Also, importantly, it's designed kind of like on the Apple Silicon model, where we can't get access to like 2 and 3 nanometer manufacture processes. So we have optimized this operating system so that it will run well on on new style processors that were manufactured with old style manufacturing technologies. So we could find it. They're still kind of really hamstrung with AI because they can't do AI processing very, very well. But we could find ourselves in a place where in 5 years' time, there is a very, very vibrant third platform that nobody outside of China would ever use, but inside China might even be. I haven't used Honor Next. It's called Honor Next, I think, the operating system. Obviously, I've never used it. I've seen video demos of it, but you're building something from the ground up without any baggage from previous designs. It might be actually something pretty good that might be enviable in 5 years.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe. I'm saying
traditionally, isolation has not improved innovation. Those two things tend not to go together well.
Yeah.
So I think that the problem is by cutting themselves off from the rest of the world, and Russia's done a little bit of the same thing. They're putting themselves on an outside lane. It doesn't mean that they can't keep up, but it's a lot harder because there's all this innovation that's happening everywhere else that isn't going to be happening there. And the Chinese can, they can steal as much as they want from our technology, but at the same time, they still have some fundamental infrastructural issues that they're going to have to deal with that they're probably going to make it hard. So them separating themselves out from this may not have the positive effect that they want. It gives the government more control because the government needs more control because the sand is sliding out from under them. That's the key to the operation. There is that the government wants to make sure that they control the information so no one understands what's actually happening there.
Yeah, and just to make sure we're being clear about this, they aren't these moves aren't them isolating themselves. It's that we can't get access to the deals and the technologies that we used to be able to have access to because of a trade war between these two countries. So we have to start doing things internally. But that's also backed up by I don't have it. I haven't read it in a couple months, so my memory's a little bit foggy. But they produced kind of an amazing document in 2019, I think, that it was a matter of policy, but policy with a certain amount of grandeur about it, with all the positive and negative associations with grandeur, saying that we want to be a great country, and great countries don't just simply buy things that have already been developed by other countries. Great countries develop things on their own that are worthy of exporting and worthy of their own people to use. And for that reason, we are putting a really big high priority on making sure that we can develop our own technologies in-house. So it's not so much we are shunning all influences from outside of our borders. A part of it is because of reality and diplomacy, but also it seems to be a national priority. And so, as you point out, there's just because they can't officially get access to manufacturing technologies and patents doesn't mean that they're not going to get them. So they're still going to be informed. But you are right; they do have a very uphill way to go. But as did Apple, when they decided that we are going to create our own operating system, we're going to create a Mac OS 10, we are going to create a brand new phone from scratch. It's once you get, and it took the iPhone a long. I'm not saying that these two are absolutely 100% compatible, but just as the sort of thing where there were a few years in which, wow, the iPhone is kind of lame. I mean, the people who like it have really good reasons for liking it, but wow, this is kind of a lame, slow phone that can't even cut, copy, and paste. But eventually, it gets really, really good. So that's why I'm saying I'm really keen to see what Honor Next is going to be like in 5 years' time once the government has the ability to encourage local developers to make sure that like whatever app you're making for iOS or Android, also make it for Honor, because we think that we like the cut of this company's jib, and we'd like to promote it as much as possible.
Let's take a little break. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell. We got lots more to come, but first a word from our sponsor, Fast Mail. For years, more than a decade, I've been using Fast Mail. And I have said in all that time, I've said, if you care about email for yourself, your family, or your business, why are you using free email services? Because free email ain't really free. You're paying for it, maybe in ways you wish you wouldn't. Fast Mail is as little as $5 a month and gives you great email. They're an independent, employee-owned email provider. They've been doing it for 20 years. They use the open source Cyrus server, and they contribute back to the open source community. They also drive the development of open standards. A lot of the open authentication standards you know and love come from Fastmail. They work with other services to improve email contacts and calendars for everybody. I have been a very happy Fastmail customer. In fact, I moved off of Gmail. I don't use Google Calendars. I don't use Google Contacts. It all is on Fastmail, and it's a great alternative. A premium inbox experience that puts your privacy first. Instead of ads or creepy data sharing, you get a clean interface with innovative features that value your time. And I got to tell you another thing. For years, I've gotten calls from people saying my Gmail account is gone or disappeared or I can't get back in or whatever. I even had a woman who went over to the Google offices in Irvine and pounded on the door to try to get her Gmail account back. There's nobody in there. You don't get support for free email. You get support from great people at Fastmail. They take care of you. So if your business relies on email, you need to rely on Fastmail. For as little as $5 a month, you get a private inbox with Fastmail. You can pay for it in more than 20 global currency. Their new multi-user plans make Fastmail even more affordable if you want to use it for the household or the business. There's a duo plan, which is for you and your partner, secure private email at a reduced price. There's a family plan for up to 6 people. And, of course, a business plan with powerful admin controls for the security and management of your company. You owe it to yourself to check out Fastmail. In fact, I use Fastmail for almost every domain I register. Yeah, I have websites and so forth, but I use Fastmail for the email. You can send and receive emails from your own domain. You can manage multiple email addresses in one space. It's easy to download your data and port it into your new Fastmail inbox. So if you're moving over, you can also fetch your mail. I never close the Gmail account, even though it's full of nothing now. Just French spam for some reason. But I do import it into Fastmail just so I know, so I can see. I don't want to miss anything important. They make it very easy. Oh, one more thing. Fastmail works with password managers like our sponsor Bitwarden and our other sponsor 1Password to make it easy for you to generate unique passwords for every account. You store them in the password manager. The mail still goes to your inbox on Fastmail, but each account has a unique email address. That improves security and also helps you track what they're doing with your email when you sign up for something. Fastmail's advancing open standards. They're leading industry cooperation. They're just really great people. Together, we're making email better for everyone. I am a very happy Fastmail customer. And in fact, if you meet, geeks on the street and you want a litmus test, if you say, what email are you using? So the lowest level would be AOL, then maybe Hotmail. But Gmail and Outlook, if they say Fastmail, they know what they're doing. Try Fastmail free for 30 days. By the way, you'll get 15% off your first year at fastmail.com/twit. I love Fastmail. Fastmail.com/twit. People ask me, for years I've been saying it. Go to Fastmail. If you care about email, get Fastmail. We thank them so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. According to benchmarks now, June 18th was the day, or July 18th, June 18th was the day that these Copilot Plus PCs with the Snapdragon Elite processor came out. Now we've seen quite a few benchmarks. So do they live up to the claim? Remember, Qualcomm said they are going to beat the MacBook Air. Right now, it looks like That's true. But according to benchmarks by The Verge, while the new Microsoft laptops, including their own Surface, do outperform the latest Air, including Dell, Lenovo, Acer, Samsung. But when it comes to the MacBook Pro, not quite so fast. This is what The Verge said. This is the fiercest Microsoft has been able to compete with MacBooks in price, performance, and battery life. While Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips don't exactly outright beat Apple's M3, 8-core and 10-core variants, in every single one of our benchmarks, they could make AMD and Intel scramble to catch up to another competitor. I think that's very clear. Certainly what Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell have been saying on Windows Weekly. These are very impressive laptops. Should Apple be worried?
I wouldn't say worried, because no one's going to. The reasons why people don't switch from Macs to Windows has nothing to do with
speed.
It's not speed. It's not. I can't get a MacBook Air style laptop. It is a problem for Apple in trying to get people to switch from Windows to Mac. I think, because man, if you're talking about a problem that people have every single day. With before this new CPU strategy, it's like, why are my laptops running so hot? Why are they so noisy? Why are they so big? Why does the battery not last more than like 5 or 6 hours? If you can suddenly say, congratulations, you now have everything that you might have admired about a MacBook Air, but you can still run Windows. You can still have all of your software. You don't have to migrate anything. You've just lost someone who might have been able to like make a switch the next time they have to put down $1,500 or $1,000 for a laptop.
I mean, I would say this is good news. This means that our friends on the Windows side can get a good battery life finally. Less fan usage, less overheating. They can get a performant laptop that's thin and light. And if you want to run Windows, now you have a good choice to run Windows. I think that's great. I don't want to, but
everybody like, it's the Toyota Corolla, it's the Kia, it's the Hyundai. It's these basic like sedan like laptops that are just they're fast enough, they're cheap enough, they're light enough, the battery lasts long enough, and that's what most people are buying. Yeah. And so if they can't yet compete with Apple's top of the line, that doesn't matter, because again, the person who has to carry a laptop from their office into a conference room, onto an airplane, into a hotel room, to another conference room, those are the features that make people want to get, oh God, I don't care how difficult it is. Give me one of those tiny, 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 tiny little MacBook Airs, because I have had it with this Dell. It's just driving me. It is a pain point every single day of my life.
Yeah. There does put price pressure on Apple, because, I've been looking at like the Lenovo Slim 7X. $1,300. Well, for one thing, they go from 16 gigs of RAM to 32 gigs of RAM for like $60, $67. Yeah. It's like, oh, you can do that? Really? And Apple people go, well, no, that should be at least $1,000. And they go from 512 gigs of storage to a terabyte of storage for an equally small amount. For $1,300, you can get a very nice terabyte, 32 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon-based Windows on ARM, very thin and light laptop from Lenovo. That puts a little pressure on Apple, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the world is full of people that when they order a Coke in a restaurant and the waiter says, is Pepsi okay? They don't care. And I'm
one of those people, but I feel like you're a Coke guy. To go with your rhubarb pie. Yeah.
I will. I prefer Coke. I will fountain drinks. My rule is that, well, okay,
Coke.
there's enough.
Okay. What do you do, Alex? Do you say, when somebody says no Coke, Pepsi, do you say?
I say water.
Yeah, really?
Oh no, I'm totally. You offer me Pepsi, I'll be like, I'll have water. Thanks, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah, like I'm not. There's not. I would never. It literally. They're not the same. They're not the same.
How about Heinz? How about Heinz versus ketchup versus Hunt's? Do you have a strong opinion on that?
No, generally I would prefer Heinz. I'm more like Andy here. I would prefer Heinz ketchup.
But you'll take Heinz.
You give me something red.
Oh, wait, well, let's make it.
The funny thing is that I very rarely use it, because I mostly eat my French fries with mayonnaise. So it doesn't. So I don't care.
That's
you.
Gross.
And I want to refer our listeners back to the start of the show where he said that when there's no news, this is why the show goes through.
How is that prediction looking, everybody?
Let me make a distinction. It's like if you offer me a Coke or a Pepsi in a bottle or coconut Pepsi in a can, yes, I absolutely prefer a Coke. However, once it's a fountain drink, there are so many variables in how crusty and bad it can be. I feel as though I'm not going to be picky about that. It's like, did they clean the hoses? Do they clean the pipelines?
Like,
are they cheaping out by giving you more water than syrup? How good is the ice? That's the point which I will say, you know what? I'm not going to be fussy about it. But yes,
and I say all this, but I drink soda maybe once every.
I know. I never.
So I love. All I drink is water.
It's a dirty pleasure. It's a secret dirty pleasure. But
I will have a Mexican Coke every once in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, good God.
My dad conditioned us when we were kids because he would do chicken pizza night in which we would get a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken, a large pepperoni pizza, and a liter of Coke. And now I got conditioned like that's what.
And now a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken is like half of your salary.
Oh, so forget it. I'm not eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, believe me. So back to the Apple news.
Yeah.
Although, frankly, I think half of the audience would prefer we go down this rat hole.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the Apple's biggest advantage is that they have something that is unique. It's such a separate experience from Windows from top to bottom. It's not just, oh wow, I like good industrial design, so that's why I prefer Apple. No, from top to bottom, inside and out, it's such a different and mentally incompatible experience that if you have, that's why I said Coke versus Pepsi. If you have a preference, you cannot take a Windows laptop over a Mac. However, most of the people that are just, again, they're focused on what they need to do with their laptop. That's when it gets kind of itchy, because those are always the kind of things that those of us who like Macs have a hard time like defending. Like, well, why wouldn't you buy a laptop where you can upgrade the RAM later on? Why wouldn't you be able to replace the storage if you want? Why, if HDMI output without a dongle is important, why wouldn't you be able to buy one that's that? Why wouldn't there be like many competing designs all trying to earn your trust and your loyalty and your dollars? Why would you simply take what one company gives you? And if you don't have the attraction to Mac that we have, it might seem kind of silly to spend, as you say, a lot of extra money for a terabyte of storage when why am I spending this much money? I can get so much. And this is I'll wrap it up, but this is like the reason why, like the last time I bought like a flagship phone, it was, I will switch from Android.
He's holding up a Pixel
to iPhone. Sorry,
Pixel 7. Yeah.
Pixel 6 Pro. Yeah. I will switch back anytime that every time I buy, I shop every single model that's out there. And a big part of it when I bought this one was I can get this with a terabyte for like their top of the line flagship phone from Google for like $200 less than an iPhone with a large screen and a terabyte of storage. And I would much rather have the terabyte of storage than, in my case, the difference between Android and iOS. So it does become a factor.
I think when people ask those questions, I think if you asked a series of questions and you derived whether a person values time or money, you could probably have 60-70% accuracy on who's going to buy what, right? If you value time, you'll tend to buy Apple products, and it's not everyone, but if you value time, I bet you lean towards Apple products, and if you value money, you lean towards Windows and Android products. And it's just a personality trait there that I think that they kind of lean towards each other. I just don't know a lot of people who are that I know that are using, if you talk to them about what they're saving, usually it's money. And if you talk to people who are using Apple products, they just want it to work. Like, hey, I'm doing a bunch of other things. I just wanted to do the thing. I don't care about change. I'm never going to change the RAM. I'm never going to do these other things. Yeah. It's just, and it's not, again, I wouldn't say that it's 100%. I would say it's like a 60%, like the needle goes one way or the other. But I think that's the lean, is that if people value, and my wife still uses a Mac, so that's a little different because my wife can tell you the cheapest gas anywhere we live, and I can tell you every gas station with a right turn in and a right turn out.
Yeah. I'll only speak to myself, but like, although I definitely perceive a difference between Windows and Mac OS, the way you say, I'm still a regular iPhone user. And it's not just, oh, well, this one's $200 less, so I'll buy this one because I want as much storage as possible. I do, in my opinion, iOS is no better than Android taken as a whole. And there are things that about the ways that Android works that I prefer over the way that iOS does it. So it really, you do, as you acknowledge, it's not 100% thing, but I would just want to mention that there are ways in which Apple really needs to move things forward with the iPhone that they're not really doing. There are things I would never, I mean, right now, as we speak, I cannot believe the fact that I've got my iPad Pro and I'm just effortlessly using it as a second display for my MacBook. And that's just a feature that I got for free, and it works perfectly. There's some growing pains with it, but now I just trust that it works. I don't even question it whatsoever. That's not an experience I get with Windows. But I don't have those kind of experiences between the iPhone and Android. If anything, there are things I can do on my Android that it drives me up a tree that I can't do it on my iPhone. So I really think that Apple should be a little bit more daring with the iPhone.
And the problem is that people like me will watch in September. I will watch and I will wait for them to talk about the camera. Like that's all. The only reason I'm upgrading or not upgrading is the camera. Like I'm just waiting to see, like, did you give me some new features? And if you didn't give me new features, I might skip a year. It's
little weird things. So I use continuity all the time where I'll copy something on an iPad or an iPhone, and then without any hesitation, just paste it in on the Mac. And it's little things like that ecosystem lock-in.
That is so amazing.
Sure. But when you talk about, we were talking about Microsoft, remember?
Oh yeah. I'll change the subject as quickly as I can.
I mean, we get in down these paths, and it's fine. I just wanted to say, I find it almost anachronistic now to have a conversation of, what does this mean in the Mac PC wars? Because I think the truth is, first off, how do you want to cast it? The truth is that Apple's Mac sales have outpaced, and there was just a report today, have outpaced the PC market pretty much, if not every quarter, most of the time for the last decade. And the PC market has been in recession for a lot of that time, although recently it has turned around. It was up, according to the Canalys analysis of this last quarter, it was up 3%. Apple was up 7%, something like that.
But by percentage, right? So Apple's got a lot
Apple
of room
grows.
to grow.
Apple has been growing Mac sales including in periods where overall PC sales were down. Mac sales have continued to rise. That's great. You could also say okay, Apple's really taken over. What's their market share globally? And the answer is 9%. So you could also say, yes, it's healthy, but it's not huge. And I think that those are two things that are probably pretty stable, and that for them to change, it would require a dramatic shift. Apple would have to be so far ahead or so far behind. And they made some hay with Apple Silicon. But when I look at this, I think exactly what Andy said, which is, it is Coke or Pepsi. I think the truth is there are people who prefer Windows, there are people who prefer Mac, and there are people who don't care. And among the people who don't care, most of them will just go with a PC because they use it at work and it's easy and it's cheap and whatever. They have reasons. I think Apple's always excelled at reaching people who actually care. Apple's growth comes from people who maybe don't care, but they have an iPhone. They have affinity for Apple as a brand. They could see how it would fit better into their lives, and they grow their market a little bit. But like for me, the most important thing and the most interesting thing about these Microsoft products that are so close to the MacBook Air is, what does that mean for the world of Windows PCs? Because you look at the operating system vendor making this really excellent product, and I wonder whether that will change the world of Windows and drive it to be more like Apple, or will it be that it turns out, the people who buy Windows PCs just don't care about the stuff that Apple people do, and having a MacBook Air for Windows is nice for the people who care, but most of them don't. That I'll leave to Paul Thurrott and everybody else who was a Windows expert. But I'm happy for my Windows friends that they have a good laptop. Good.
It isn't a religious war anymore.
But it feels it's not. We all lived through the wars, and it's like the Mac's not going anywhere. Windows isn't going anywhere, and that's fine.
I mean, just to reiterate those numbers. Hold on a second. Just to reiterate those numbers from Canalys, the PC market grew 5%. In 2023, the Mac market grew 22%.
But remember, that's 22% of a much smaller number.
But remember when the Mac was like 5% in the U.S.
The numbers are different.
Apple
globally.
is now 14.2% of the U.S. PC market. That is a stunning number for those of us who lived in that era when Apple was a real minority.
And those numbers are 3.4 worldwide for PC growth and 6% for Apple, because Apple is not as strong. U.S. is a very strong Apple market, but be that as it may, it is again, it's which side of the coin here. As a long time, like I always said, I started writing about Apple when they were going out of business. The fact that they've got that kind of U.S. market share is amazing. Yeah. Like it is.
They sell,
and the truth is they sell, I mean, the country has grown, but like Apple sells more Macs today than they have ever. And that's true over the last like 2 or 3 years is the high watermark of the Mac up to now. So the Mac's doing fine, right? But you could look at it the other side and say, 15%? That's it? It's like, okay, fair. Yeah. All right, that's fine.
As somebody who believes in Linux on the desktop, 15% sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah. But what makes it even more impressive is when you think about this is one company that is manufacturing 15% of the computers in the entire world.
How many PC companies are there? Thousands, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's I'm really intrigued by the difference between I'm not happy that there is a duopoly in both desktops and mobile. Okay, we should not simply accept that. Oh well, of course there's only going to be two. There should be 8, 9, 10. Really, okay. Fragmentation is bad for an entire industry, but it's good for the one person, for the individual who gets the device that they want, running the operating system that they want. That's just my sermonizing. But the idea of you have Apple that is being a boutique sort of artisan sort of manufacturer, and we can't ignore the fact that they are not capable of fulfilling all of the PC desktop needs of the entire world, because there's a reason why if you go onto government auction sites or local auction sites, you can buy like Dell Optiplex towers, shrink wrapped 100 of them for like $80. Like not as bad as that, but because this is what an office needs 100 identical computers for workstations.
Our editors all use Dell workstations for editing with Adobe Premiere. That is how we edit. We don't use Final Cut Pro on Macs. We used to.
And between the two of them, you have a vibrant PC market where we will actually make a specific kind of computer that is only for this one use, because there is a $5 million market for this specific kind of PC, and we're a small company that can do that. All the way up to we are building fancy machines that could make a MacBook Air user kind of envy, because the fit, finish, and function is just as good. But you still have artisanal.
The cloud changes things too, as we move to remote work in the next few months, we're going to operate off a Macintosh in the cloud at Mac Stadium, by the way, which has 2 gigabits up and down bandwidth. So it'll be probably an easier, faster solution than a local Mac for the editors, and they're going to be able to use Azure and Windows in the cloud if they need to. We have that now to do editing. Once you get to that point, it doesn't really matter what your hardware is at all. I mean, this is an ancient religious war that maybe doesn't matter.
Well, there's a lot of, it depends on what you're doing. So Excel is running as fast as it's ever going to run. Like, so if you're doing business
on both platforms, by the way, probably, right?
Yeah. People aren't rendering their Excel files over a long period of time. But when it comes to a lot of the video subsystems, audio subsystems, and so on and so forth, the Mac OS does start to make a difference, and you can do a lot of those things on the PC as well. So people can choose which one they want to go to, but the performance numbers that we see, and that's why I think we're seeing Apple start to lean back towards the creatives in a way that I think Apple, their lifeblood was creatives in the late 90s, early aughts. And then they just forgot about us. They were like, we got this thing called an iPod, and then we have an iPhone, and they just didn't really pay much attention to creatives that much. And now they're starting to go, hey, how's it going? And you saw the last iPad was so much about that, because we're the ones that buy the higher end hardware. We're the ones that upgrade much faster because we need that performance. And I think that I think that makes a difference. And the problem the interesting thing now is that the Apple up to a certain point is a great solution for graphics until you get to, a $10,000 or $12,000 machine. As soon as you start needing bigger machines than that, then you go back to PCs. So it's an interesting thing where they figured out where, and that's about 95% of the graphics market. But I think that is probably also why you see more of a lean towards greater growth in the Mac market is creative professionals. And not when I say creative professionals, creators is a pretty big market. Like creators themselves are a pretty big market for developing for YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And I mean, I only have anecdotal knowledge. I don't have any statistics, but every creator, not every creator, but 95% of the creators that I work with are on a Mac. Yeah. And on their iPhone, and you see Samsungs, but usually Samsung paid for that.
Yeah. My son, who's a very active creator, uses Final Cut on a Mac, but it's just
faster.
What's interesting is, and I think there's a whole generation, his generation and after, that they're not into computers in the way that we used to be. And so he doesn't really care. He has no loyalty or attachment to a platform. It's just a tool for him.
Right. And I think that, I talked to a lot of folks who do editing, and one of the things that I was talking to a creator about it, and I said, so why do you use Final Cut? Just out of curiosity. And they were like, well, I don't get paid per hour. Like, I just need to get things done. I don't need to do fine color correction. I'm not doing surround sound, and I don't get paid per hour. And he said, and Final Cut gets the product that I'm trying to create for YouTube out the fastest. That's all I care about, is that I can package it up and get it out. And he said everything else takes more time, or there's a lot of niggly bits to it. And he goes, this one just allows me to plow through the system. So
yeah. Let's see what else is going on. We just went down a large rat hole. I'm glad though that we can declare the war over. Yeah. Peace in our time.
You really seem like you're old. You feel like you're a dinosaur if you are still arguing about the rightness of Apple versus the rightness of Microsoft.
I can get that apple that's shaved into the back of my head. I can let that hair grow in now. Yeah. Okay.
But the tattoo will never go away.
No, the tattoo's pretty permanent. Fortunately, it's a twit bug, not an apple bug. I'm loyal to my own damn company. Do you want to do rumors? Do you want to do leaks? Do we care? Is it meaningful at this point in time?
I don't know.
Yeah. An existential question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Is it ever meaningful?
I thought the rumor about a plastic bodied Apple Watch was interesting, because I'm like, why would Apple want to do that? Because they're not. It's not as though they're really trying to. They already have a nice, inexpensive Apple Watch that can compete with the $200 or $300 like premium fitness watches and the premium like Samsung watches that are out there. Why would they? What price point would they be trying to hit? If they were trying to hit $99, that would be amazing. And you can do a very, very well built, durable watch out of plastic. Just take a look at $100 Casio G-Shock. It'll be if you're buried with one, they can dig you up in 500 years. And if it's a solar model, leave it out in the sun, it will continue to work.
Isn't that funny?
And it's a plastic bodied device. But I just don't know if Apple wants to have a $99. I could definitely see them doing, what if we were to take something that's not an Apple Watch, it is simply a fitness device, but we want to make it as accessible as possible, and we definitely want to make it so that you can buy this and maybe a pair of AirPods for $200. So a $99 like cheap AirPods, $99 Apple Watch. I could see that. But
it's made out of plastic? The AirTag. Here's a election season AirTag story from the Wall Street Journal. So it's apparently a big problem that people steal campaign signs, yard signs off your yard. It is in our little town of Petaluma. We've had city council members complain that other city council members were telling people to go around and pull up their yard signs. So according to the Wall Street Journal, campaigns are now putting AirTags. That seems like an expensive solution in their in their campaign yard
but it's
signs.
So satisfying when you catch them. It's like I would pay $30 to see the blood drain from that person's face.
Yeah.
When I see like, oh, nice pile of Andy Ihnatko for city treasurer signs like in the backyard.
John Ditmore is running for a seat on the Brevard County Commission in Florida. He says he believes he is being targeted, decided to put up a replacement sign with a tracking device at the same intersection. Others had disappeared. He spent 3 hours one night staking out the intersection in hope of spotting the would-be thieves. He went to bed, but his wife woke him up when their iPhone showed the sign on the move. He found him in a pile of them. He called the police after tracking the AirTag to a pickup truck parked in the driveway of a home 8 miles away. They questioned 2 teens. Oh man, it wasn't his opposition when they learned about the tracking device. Quote, "The kids' eyes bugged out," said Ditmore. Teens were charged with criminal mischief and grand theft for taking 9 signs. By the way, the signs are not cheap. The value of the signs was more than $100 a sign.
$1,100, and later on in the story, it goes up to other examples of like where a candidate's signs were being like stolen by another city councilman.
Yeah, see, that's what was happening in Petaluma, and there was always this accusation back and forth, but nobody ever had proof. Well, now you can put an AirTag in there.
Yeah. Although already it's very, very correct to recommend to people that I don't care if your Find My iPhone says that it's at the specific address. Do not go there and try to click your sign. Worst, what if like the person who stole your sign is somebody who thinks that the most violently ultra-right candidate is way too liberal for their tastes, that they think that guns should be issued to people like at age 5 as opposed to like not regulated. They can keep my signs. Thank you. Please don't kill me.
It is just a sign after all. All right, little break here. And then I want to talk about F1, the movie. Whoa. You know, Lisa and I did go see the Las Vegas Formula One race last year, and we had seats. I thought these would be really great seats. They were on the Strip, which is the highest speed part of the racetrack, and we were sitting in the grandstands, and all you see is, I mean, literally less than a second, and they're gone. And
then every once in a while, if they're close to each other, you're like, it's more than one. They all come.
What you do, though, I have to say, I've watched it on TV, been a fan for a while. There's a rumble, a deep rumble to it when I put on the AirPods and put on the sound cancellation, the noise cancellation, you don't feel it. But when you take them out, and I did want ear protection because it was loud. There's a feeling of power, and you really realize how fast these cars are going. We also, it turned out, had a good spot because one of the drivers hit a water main cover, and we saw him sparking down the road. But that was it. I mean, I would not do it again because
but seriously, isn't it like so much like I can't watch boxing because I know that these people are suffering debilitating lifelong injuries with every bout, even in training. F1, like now it's safe enough.
Safer.
It's still super dangerous, but like when you see the Netflix series of like an amazing crash, amazing in that you're amazed that somebody survived, let alone they are intact enough just to be angry that they crashed because there was a fireball, there's tumbling end over end, and then they just simply climbed out and said, "Oh gosh, darn it."
They've done an amazing job, really, of making that safe.
So basically, if there's a crash, you're at least not necessarily thinking that they're going to bring out the tarp to cover the cockpit. It's like, okay, you don't feel as guilty as you might otherwise. You watch documentaries about.
I have a hard time watching the NFL.
How Senna died.
Oh yeah, well Senna's death was why they have the
horrifying
the hands device, and they have all of the the collar and all that stuff because they really are trying to protect these
Dale Earnhardt was the hands device was for Dale Earnhardt. The Halo device was.
That was in response to Senna.
The Halo on the F1. Like you saw, amazing controversy between the builders and the drivers saying, "Oh, but I'm going to obstruct this. It's going to obstruct that." And then the first time it was in a race, and here's the cockpit camera of here is the wheel that would have crushed this person instantly, and we're like, "Oh, Halo's not so bad. We like the Halo."
Yep. All right. Well, we just did our F1 segment. Hey, I know we got a Vision Pro segment coming up. How about that? And you know what? The combination of the two. Ooh, now we're talking something. But first, a word from our sponsor. We're very happy to have 1Password as a sponsor. What you didn't know is we've had 1Password as a sponsor for a long time because we had Kolide, K-O-L-I-D-E, as a sponsor. 1Password acquired Kolide. And now the two together, like peanut butter and jelly. It's a solution made for anybody who wants to protect their network. In a perfect world, end users would only work on managed devices with IT-approved apps. But you know we don't live in a perfect world. Everyday employees use personal devices, apps that aren't approved, apps not protected by MDM or IAM or any other security tool. There was a big password company, in fact, whose DevOps guy, or maybe he was a sysop, logged into the company's network, and it turned out on his network at home, he had an out-of-date, unpatched version of Plex, which allowed the bad guys into his network, which allowed them into the password manager's network and caused the exfiltration of all their vaults. Not 1Password. And not you if you use 1Password's extended access management. There is a giant gap between the security tools we have and the way we actually work. 1Password calls it the access trust gap, but they have the perfect solution, the first ever, to fill it. With 1Password's extended access management, every sign-in for every app on every device is fully secured. The person can't get in, their devices can't get in, their networks can't get in unless they are secure. 1Password's extended access management includes the password manager you know and love, and the device trust solution we've been talking about for all this time, Kolide. So the 1Password verifies the individual. Kolide makes sure that their network, their devices, their apps are secure. And believe me, this is a great user experience. It protects users' privacy. And because of that, it can go places other tools can't, like personal and contractor devices. I said no MDM. You don't need any MDM. It ensures that every device is known, every device is healthy, every login is protected. This way, you don't have to try to ban shadow IT or BYOD or, people are going to do what they do, but you could start protecting them and your network with 1Password's extended access management. This is a really great combination. Check it out at 1Password.com/MacBreak. Users love it. You will love it. the number one, PASSWORD.com/MacBreak. It's kind of ironic that a break-in at the other password manager would have been solved if they'd only been using this one. 1Password.com/MacBreak. All right, we apparently, John Ashley, our talented producer and technical director, has created for us. Oh, but you don't have it.
No. See, this is where when you do the thing now, it's going to just show up magically in post-production as.
All right. So even though you don't have it and people watching live won't see it.
A premiere for everybody except for the people who are actually doing the show.
Exactly.
It's time.
You are so lucky.
For the
email us and tell us on Discord and tell us how you like it.
Yeah, tell us how you liked it. Does it say anything, John Ashley, or is it just like
it's actually based off of what Andy did last week. His little jingle.
You made the song?
No. So
what do you see?
Yeah.
What do you know? It's time for Vision Pro.
It was Be More 236.
Thank you, Be More 236.
And I used it.
Yay.
So, which is happening right here.
So right now I will say, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk Vision Pro.
Andy, that's your cue. Go.
Oh, you have to do.
What do you see? What do you know? It's time to talk Bing Vision Pro.
That was for the live audience.
That's just the sketch version.
Yeah. What do you see? What do you know? It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
Wow, what a great theme song that was, everybody. Amazing.
If only there were.
I'm running my congressman. That's our new national anthem. If we have any pride in this country at all.
If only there were some Vision Pro news.
Alas.
Tim Cook, in an interview, says he wears it regularly to watch videos.
Yay.
Yeah.
to an Australian journalist, I believe, who had to fly to Cupertino to interview Tim Cook. I thought that was also a flex, right? Is like, oh yeah, it's launching in Australia. We've got an availability for you to talk to Tim Cook. Oh, amazing. Is he coming to Sydney? No.
But you are coming to Cupertino.
Fly on over.
That's a long flight.
It really puts my 70-minute drive to Apple Park in perspective when I meet people who flew in from Australia or the UK
See how lucky
to go to an
are.
Apple event. Yeah.
Here from Patrick Delahanty is the quintessential Vision Pro user waiting for more content. That is one of my favorite memes. It's from Narcos. That is, what's his name? Yeah, bad guy. Canada this Friday. Ray Maxwell's very excited because he bought a Vision Pro.
Australia,
yes.
Too.
And he bought a Vision Pro from America that he couldn't use some things with. So I guess, Ray, now you'll be able to be legit. You can come out of the closet and tell the world.
My friends in the UK are excited because first off, if it breaks, they could take it to a store and instead of flying to New York. And second, it means that they can also buy some other accessories and stuff. And like they can use their own Apple ID. And it's like, there's lots of good things for all of those people out there. And it'll be interesting to see, new markets. There will be an influx of new users to a certain extent. And we'll see what happens with that. The betas are great. I've been enjoying the Vision Pro betas because, again, they're actually adding, like, why are you even on the Vision Pro if you're not using the beta? You should, like, what are you even doing?
If you're going to be cutting edge,
requires you to stay on 1.0. Yeah,
be cutting edge.
It's the only reason you use it.
Yeah. So what do you use to dust your Vision Pro?
I keep it in a case. I'm just
teasing. And you every day you take it out of that case. And
I do not use it every day, but I do use it. I would say 2 or 3 times a week.
Nice.
And whenever I get in there, then I'm like, I don't want to leave.
Really? Right? You still?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So see, that's good. That's a good sign. So you go like, this is good. I like this. I'm enjoying it.
There's a lot of good stuff. And the beta, I can write in it a lot better because the beta's got the pass-through for the keyboard. So you can be on the beach and still see your keyboard, which is nice because it used to be you could see your hands, but not the keyboard. And so it's like ghostly typing. It's not as good. This is better. I did a spatial persona meeting where we use SharePlay. Like,
do you do that a lot?
They're doing some stuff. And Apple Intelligence, as we said, I think last week, Mark Gurman said it is coming to Vision Pro. It'll be next year like everything else, but it's not like it's not going to show up there. So it's progressing. They need to do more content. That's the bottom line. They need to do more content.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if Apple, like where they go. It's partially needing more content and partially building the tools to develop that content. And so it'll be really interesting to see if Apple does more work on both of those things. I mean, I think that one of the things that that a lot of us think is going to happen is when the Blackmagic camera comes out, we think there'll be a lot of 180-degree spatial that comes out because every time you do 180-degree spatial, it's like a art project. Like it is like nothing. Everything is difficult. Like everything is hard. And so, and this is a big piece of like when we were talking about the 90s, like a bunch of stuff came out and then nothing happened. And, a bunch of stuff, you can build all that technology, but if things aren't able to generate the content for that, it will die off by itself. And so I think that, the Blackmagic having Resolve, and obviously Final Cut will have some of the tools as well, of being able to effectively generate the 180-degree content. Because I think a lot of people, when they see the 180-degree content, there's a pretty, a high number of people think it's really great. The problem is that it's really hard to make right now. And so I think that having a camera that can shoot 90 frames a second, 8K per eye, nothing that's never existed before. Like to have a single camera that does that well has never existed in the wild before for what will probably be $25,000. You don't want to say like $25,000 is a lot of money, but that's not what it rents for. It'll rent for $1,000, $1,500 a day, which means people can go out and shoot a concert or shoot something else with it. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I also still think that there's incredible opportunities for things like JigSpace if their business model was more effective. JigSpace is a really cool product that is just really expensive to develop for.
And that's your Vision Pro segment.
Now you see, now you know, we're done talking the Vision Pro.
I'm gonna use the Vision Pro, every Vision Pro signal to remind people they should go and they should sign up for the Stream Voodoo spatial.
Oh yeah, when is that?
StreamVoodoo.com. We're working on getting it updated so that we can come up to Twit and stream it. So we want to stream Twit on a Sunday. So we're a week or two away. We think.
Oh, exciting!
So we're working on that.
Don't wait too long.
Because by the way, it's not my product.
We're shutting down the studio. So
I know we're going to.
You don't want to have to do that in the attic. It just won't be the same.
I've been using that as a. It will be actually pretty cool anyway. But I'd rather do it in the studio there. So I'm using that as a, hey, we don't have all day. So we're
good.
So it's not, and by the way, it's not me. It's not like I own the company. It's,
no, I understand.
Or even part of it. I'm just working with Stream Voodoo, and they're
I'm very grateful.
Doing great work on it, and we're really excited because I want to do that before you're not using the studio there.
Where will you? Is it one camera or is it
one camera?
And where will you put it? Like right in front of me?
I'm going to try to put it right in the middle. I mean, we're going to play with it a little bit and try to put it right in the middle. So we'll put it. And over
do you
top
get
of that
surround
monitor.
sound as well? Like
we can't. We think we can. That's what I'm working on right now. So basically, I have.
Do you want me to try to get all live people for that episode? Would that be better? That'd be better.
But let me see. Yeah, that would be great. It will look better.
As soon as you have a date, let us know, and I'll get Benito on that, and we can, get people who can come up to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to try to do, and we will try to do, I mean, with everyone sitting in front, I don't know how much it's going to make a difference to have like surround audio, but we are going to try it. So basically we'll have ambisonic folded down into binaural.
Jason, you want to come up for that?
Okay. I mean, depends on.
We don't know the date yet.
Sure. Right.
And Alex is in the area. So that's 2. Get Kathy Gellis to come up. Ian Thompson's in the area. There are quite a few people. So we'll try to do an all live twit for that one. That would be much better. I think.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. So anyway, but you just go to streamvoodoo.com/spatial and make sure you have the app. It won't be hard to figure out what to do because we'll tell you it's going live. And then what we're building into it is that I can just turn on the phone and you turn on the app and you see it. so you don't have to figure it out. So we're working on that.
So this is what they specialize in.
And just sign up for it. I think you still have to sign up for it. I think that they're still rolling it out.
But, it says join beta.
It's a beta, yeah. But you should sign up for it. It's cool.
I would imagine if you have a Vision Pro, you're pretty much in. Like, it's not.
Yeah. No, totally. It's and I think that again, I think that there's a lot of opportunity. I just want to promote the idea that people start to realize how cool it will be to see 3D. So, and we saw a little bit of that at WWC with Daring Fireball, and I think that
you're going to do it better. We know that. But now, does this mean I have to buy a Vision Pro? I guess I do.
You don't have to. I'll show it to you.
Can I use yours?
I have one. Yeah. Okay. I take the lenses out, and you'll have to reset it, and then you'll be able to see it. Good.
I just see mine would be just getting dusty. In fact, I got rid of the Meta Quest Pro. I gave it away. Who took it? Do we know? John? No, we don't know. The HTC Vive has been sitting in the giveaway room for a long time, as far as I know. Nobody wants
the Supernatural. I think Supernatural is the best VR exercise tool so far. Like I play with that a fair bit.
Burke got it. Burke got it. Congratulations, Burke. You're a winner.
For the HTC the Vive?
No, he took the other thing. What was it?
The Meta.
The Meta Quest. That's you know what? That's not bad. I mean, it was $1,400 when I bought it, but it was fun. I don't want to strap a computer on my face. It doesn't feel good.
I think the Quest, especially I think there's a lot that I enjoy on the little $250 Quest.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for people who are interested who don't want to spend $3,500, the Quest 3 is a very good choice. Yeah. Did I do the ad? I can't even remember where I am. What am I doing? Who am I? Yes, I did do the ad.
We never actually got around to talking about the Apple's F1 movie.
That's what we're supposed to be talking about. The first teaser has been released. Now this I can't play it. I understand. This goes back to Tim Cook was at a Formula One race last year waving the checkered flag, kind of an anemic fashion. That was the Austin race I think he was at. And I thought, I wonder if Apple's in the bidding for Formula One. That's currently owned by ESPN in the United States, Sky Sports around most of the world. But no, I think they were preparing to be making a movie with Brad Pitt about Formula One. And the first teaser has been released. I can't play it. It's produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, so you know it's going to be exciting. And Lewis Hamilton, 7-time F1 champion. Comes out June 25th. Oh, I'm sorry. Internationally, June 25th. North America, June 27th.
2025. They're still filming it.
2025. Oh man.
Well, because they're actually filming during the 2024 race year. So events. So they're actually filming at these events. It's like back in the 60s and 70s, they made Le Mans with Le Mans with Steve McQueen, another movie called Grand Prix with James Gardner. Yep. And just like the same thing, it wasn't like we'll create like a racetrack like in an airport and then like have green screen. No, they actually were like filming at every one of these events, and both of those were amazing movies. So it's incredible that they're doing the entire race season with the full, like, of course, just like the military was happy to collaborate on Top Gear. F1 is very, very happy to collaborate on this movie. So, like, there was like if you're a fan of like the Netflix the Netflix series F1 Need for Speed or Drive to Survive, whatever it is. So you see, like, there's like they catch like Gunther Steiner, who was like fired from the Haas team like last season or whatever. Like, so you see him like at one of the race kiosks, like, oh, I know that guy because I watch Netflix.
But the problem is Gunther no longer is in charge of the Haas team, so. I don't. Maybe that dates it. I don't know. That's the problem. That there's going to be all new drivers, all new everything next year. Yeah. Anyway, the reason we're talking about it is it's an Apple TV production. We should probably
Apple TV. Yeah. Brad Pitt, and another actor who.
There's Gunther. I can't remember his name. I just saw Gunther leaning out. Tell you is you can show that. I'm not going to let the movie go. I just show you a picture of Gunther leaning out, saying, "Well, he's pretty profane, so I can't say what he was saying."
Yeah. There's just going to be a lot of really interesting technical stuff about this, because they're actually Brad Pitt and Damson Idris were like the two like main like race drivers actors. Like, they're actually, it says here that they're actually driving F1 cars, which is an incredible thing for anybody to learn how to do, because
can you imagine?
James Garner and Steve McQueen were basically driving pretty ordinary cars, very dangerously, but pretty ordinary cars. And the having like to put cameras in these things in such a way that these people don't kill themselves, even if they're driving the F1 car at actor type levels of fear. Like, that's because these things are like so. I'm not like a huge F1 person, but I do know that these cars are immensely balanced. And the idea of, okay, we want to put an 11-ounce camera here. Yeah. Like, okay, well, they're not going to be able to take any curves if we put 11 ounces right there.
So Formula One does put cameras all over the cars, and apparently there was a slot for a camera that they've stopped using that was still in an Alpine. And so the video that you're seeing, in fact, here's a little piece of it. Now, I'm not going to show the whole thing, but this is the Brad Pitt race car in the front. But the actual footage is Pierre Gasly driving last year with footage they recorded on a racetrack. So, you know what? This will be a great example of movie magic.
Looks really good.
I can't wait to see it.
An hour of it is filmed in IMAX, so that's going to be worth $20 to me.
Yeah.
Oh, from the cars? Not from the cars, like.
I don't know. I don't think. Well,
you couldn't fit an IMAX camera. The car is so big.
There's a. Well, the thing is, there's a article in Deadline with the producers and the directors, and like they really, really want to make this a really good IMAX movie. So I'm not sure they're saying there's an hour of IMAX in this thing. Every single dialogue scene between two actors, like at their living room, is IMAX. I'm sure that you could ask. You can answer this better than anybody else. Would it be possible to upscale with AI or something else to IMAX?
You would consider, I mean, so if you're talking about an IMAX camera, that's a film camera, and it's really big, and that's what they use. That's what Christopher Nolan uses. There are digital cameras that are considered IMAX level cameras. So some of the Aries and the Sony Venice and a couple other cameras are considered IMAX, qualified cameras. And so they probably, and those can be fairly small. So like you could put an Arri LF or something like that up there. And so that they could potentially put one of these smaller cameras on one of those without too much trouble, but they wouldn't put it, the IMAX camera, the film camera is massive. And, we think that someday it'll be digital. The Sphere camera has roughly the same resolution as the IMAX film. Well, depending on who you talk to.
One for Las Vegas.
But the problem is that still takes like a crew to run, to turn on. It's maybe quieter than the IMAX camera. The IMAX camera is you're going to loop all that dialogue every time you use an IMAX camera. So, but it's going, so, but anyway, it'll and you can up resolution, noise reduction, all these other things have become pretty amazing. So it's, you can do a lot with the footage that you get.
Summer 2025, summer next year. And then I hear summer in 2026, it's going to be the Ted Lasso collab where Ted Lasso gets to coach a F1 team. It should be a lot of fun.
Actually, there is a Ted Lasso connection. The actress who played the psychiatrist on Ted Lasso is playing like the non-Brad Pitt race driver's mom.
Wow. So is Apple getting a repertory company of actors that appear in Apple TV shows? That would be kind of interesting.
Maybe she's like the John Ratzenberger of Apple TV like productions, where there's the good luck charm. She has to have at least one line in every single production.
Apple TV show. Good for her. Good for her. One last story before we get to our picks of the week, because I want to do that next. And this one is a rumor, but I like it because I'm hopeful. There is apparently in tvOS, in the beta, a touchscreen ready interface, which at least 9 to 5 Mac says that's probably because the HomePod with display is going to be running tvOS. Yes? Credible?
Yeah.
Plasterboard.
There's been stories all along that Apple's been working on a HomePod with screen, like an Amazon Echo Show or a Google Home, and that they were going to, HomePod already, I think, is basically using a modded version of tvOS, but this would be an interface that you could control with your voice or with touch, just like those other devices. And so they use tvOS, but they've got to put kind of a touch layer on it because there's no touch tvOS. But this sounds like it's getting closer to reality, which I'm excited because I've had one of those screen assistant thingies in my kitchen for quite a while. I've cycled through the Amazon and the Google products, and they're not the best. And
you know what I wanted
in
for
the Apple ecosystem?
HomeKit. We need a touch screen for HomeKit.
That'd be nice.
It would be, you could have your HomeKit scenarios, scenes, and touch them and choose. That seems like a really natural. And since the HomePod and the Apple TV are both, HomeKit, base stations, that seems like a likely.
I think even just people talking to each other while they're in the kitchen. I have family members that talk to each other hours a day, and I think them being able to do that. The problem really is that if you put it in an iPad, there's other things you want to do with the iPad. Right. And I did get some Amazon shows for parents and everything else, and it was just quirky enough for them not to use it for radio, but that's about it. That's all they ever got to really doing. And I think that so many people have iPhones that if you did just do something where people can call in, and you have something that's kind of like an appliance in your kitchen that you can sit there and answer questions. And I think Facebook went a long way to figuring that out with the portal. It was just the problem was that people had trust issues about having a portal in there. Right. But it was a trust issue, and that's what Apple doesn't have to deal with.
And Apple TV also already has FaceTime, right?
Maybe Burke's going to do some sort of weird mishmash
with
the
work. I have one.
MetaQuest and the portal. Mm-hmm. I got 2 of the big ones. I thought I was going to give it to my mom, and then I realized, oh wait a minute, you have to have a Facebook account. That's not gonna fly.
But so I think that having that, being able to call someone that you put one of those in their kitchen, you're a family member or a parent or whatever, and being able to just call with your phone and talk to them for a while and have it just be there and have it, and a lot of the technology that Apple's building for the laptops and the iPads, all the following functions that they've built into it.
Yep.
Center stage.
Finally, the AT&T video phone is a reality.
Yeah,
well, it's cute.
Apple
it's
TV,
cute on those
you
things,
can
but
do
it's
this.
Really good on this.
You can do this now on Apple TV with continuity camera and center stage, and it works pretty well. But you got to set up your phone and put it on your TV or whatever. Like this is just all built in and using center stage.
This is what Grandma wants right here.
Yeah,
she wants.
Well, and if
black and white,
if it was $200 or $300, if it was $200 or $300, and you throw it in someone's kitchen, and it's let's say a 10-inch or a 13-inch screen with a following camera that's 1080p. I think there'd be a lot of people that would want to play.
Yeah. And there are a lot of ways to do this. And by the way, this is better than rumor, because 95Mac actually found the code like inside the brand new beta, and they were able to activate it. So it's the code is live and out there, but you just can't actually use it. So that's good sign of something. The rumors that have been like spilling around about this is that it might be something to do with Mark Gurman loves the idea that Apple is trying to build a robot sign of home device, and that's going to be the next like home device. But that kind of fits in with a rumor that no, not necessarily a robot, but something that's more like a G4 iMac, where the screen is like pivotable on an arm, so you can actually put it exactly where you want to, eye level, aiming at whatever you want it to do. I think it's interesting. I have a couple of smart displays, Google Nest stuff. I don't necessarily start videos or start calls on it, but I definitely continue videos and continuous calls on it. Like when it's time for dinner, I might like move from the TV into the kitchen and basically just move this video onto a smart display. What I would really love to see is Google like decided to try to do another tablet last year, and the only good idea from the entire thing was the idea that it ships with its own like little like smart speaker, magnetic base and charging base. But it's not just like, oh well, if you dock this to this thing, it will have a speaker and it'll charge. It actually changes its entire interface from an Android-based tablet to more of a smart display sort of thing. I would love to see that sort of thing in a MagSafe accessory, for particularly like for an iPad Mini, where I would be more interested in buying like $500 worth of iPad and this smart dock than I would in a $300 device that is 100% a HomePod smart speaker. But we'll see how things actually work out, huh?
I have the Echo Show 10, which really looks exactly like a HomePod with an iPad attached to it. And I really like it. It follows you around as you're talking to it. It senses your presence, so it's always aimed at you. Right. And it's great for calls too. I got one for my mom and one for me so that we could talk to each other. And it is a very natural way to.
I really thought that was really aggressive. The pan tilt zoom kind of approach to it, or at least the pan approach to that is, it just really, that's a scary thing to do on a consumer product. To give it something, just a lot of the, now you have moving parts, like what Facebook did was have I'm going to do a 4K signal, and I'm going to pan inside of that signal to make that actually work.
That looks less creepy than the thing is actually turning.
Mark Gurman keeps referring to this thing as a robot, because I think that is Apple's idea, is that they want it to move a little. I wonder if like it might be a little like that G4 iMac, where there's kind of like the HomePod base and then the sort of screen above it that can kind of like turn around. Could be adorable, honestly. Yep. And the other thing that I found with those other devices that I'm actually looking forward to here is Apple TV. tvOS as a legacy means probably it will support all the streaming services. So if you actually want to watch something in the kitchen, listen, it will actually work, because those apps are already on tvOS. And that's always been my frustration
with the Google Hub Max because of YouTube TV.
It doesn't have enough apps.
No, because of YouTube TV. So I can say, please play CNN in the kitchen and watch it on that little screen. It works great. I can watch all the TV shows there.
If you're using the platform owner's app,
you have to use you have to use YouTube TV.
But like there's always on all of those, Amazon too, they support some services, but not.
No, it'd be great if it supported all the Apple TV services.
tvOS supports all those. There's a Netflix app and a Hulu app and a Disney app, and like they're all there.
Yeah. And Apple has proven that it can do exactly what everybody else is doing, just kind of quietly set down. And there's a whole bunch of Apple users that will just go, oh, it's all integrated.
Yeah. And multiple name timers.
Continuity would be amazing on this kind of device.
Right.
And the other thing that is just simple, like industrial design, that given that this is not just like a tech gadget that's on a desk with a stack of like hard drives and stuff. This is something that is supposed to be in your kitchen or inside your living room, not convincing everybody that you are a nerd who probably owns Google Glass and still wears it. Like as a device that integrates with whatever your decor is, that looks like a beautiful object even when it's static. Apple could do something that could get a lot of people interested in this kind of product that would not be interested in such a thing made by anybody else.
Yeah.
Folks, we have come to the point in the show where I beg you to give us money, and then we give you reasons to spend your money. We call it the Picks of the Week and the Club Twit Mention. Your picks are coming up. Prepare, if you will. Meanwhile, I have a pick for you, all you wonderful people, especially you people who are watching now on YouTube and on Twitch.tv and on Kick and on X. First of all, we're thrilled to have you. We love you. And we would love to have you in our community. Now, it starts at $7 a month. You can make it as much as you want. But $7 a month gives you a lot of benefits. Ad-free versions of all the shows, video for all the shows, access to the Club Twit Discord, where we not only stream the shows live, but great conversations go on day and night. Plus all the bonus content like Stacy's Book Club, Home Theater Geeks, lots and lots of stuff. $7 a month is as low as we could go. We made it as affordable as possible because we give you a lot of content for a very little amount of money, but it makes a big difference to us because without it, I think we're really going to have to do some belt tightening. As you probably know already, ad support for podcasting is disappearing. Many podcasts have gone under, podcast networks too. We want to keep doing this. We're doing everything we can to tighten the belt. We're going to shut down the studio and start sending everybody home, work from home. But your help would be much appreciated. If you'd like to know more, twit.tv/clubtwit. Rod Salter in our YouTube chat says, I'm signing up for Club Twit. I love the podcast. Thank you, Rod. I appreciate it. We'd love to have all of you. twit.tv/clubtwit. Now, let's get our picks of the week. Now that I've given you a way to spend money, Alex Lindsay is going to give you a way to spend money with his pick.
So much money.
Oh, boy. We like to start with Alex because he likes the expensive. You've been very good lately. You've been very good.
I'm breaking left. So anyway, so the
I want this. I don't even know what it does, but I like how it looks.
I've had this sitting on my desk, and I had to search back through MBW picks to make sure I hadn't picked it before. Thank you for that website, by the way. It's so valuable. So anyway, so so this is a 8x8 matrix, and this is made by Monoprice. It's not a particularly, it's nothing special in the sense that it's not super shiny. It's a 1U. It does have rack ears that you can throw it into a rack if you want. It doesn't. Mine sits on my desk. And what I do is I have a lot of monitors. I have about, 8 or 9 monitors that are here. So I have more monitors than I actually have room in this matrix, but it's enough. And so what I can put all my monitors in, and then I have 8 ins. So for all my computers that are sitting on my desk, I have inputs, and I have my Apple TV go into it, and I have other things that are, and then I have 8 outs. So I can go out from there to my switcher.
So it's basically an HDMI splitter is what you're saying. It's on steroids.
A matrix, but it's a matrix because it
8 to 8, anything to anything.
I can send, but I can also send one of those outputs to all 8 of the, one of those inputs to all the 8 of the outputs, or to 2 of them, or to 6 of them, or to whatever I want. So it's more like a video router. It really is a video router, except for HDMI. And it has a web interface, so you can go in there and do it all on your own. You can do EDIDs, so you can say, watch this monitor as an EDID and copy it. And so that so that the handshake works. You have a web interface. You also have RS-232, which I keep on saying I'm going to work on, but I haven't yet. But you could set it up so that you can do RS-232 commands. I believe it has REST, which I haven't taken advantage of yet. But the big thing that I do with it often is I set up where I want my monitors, because I have Gray Matter, which is one show that I do where I don't sit in this chair. Michael Krasny actually sits in my chair, and I sit over in another desk. But I need my monitors to be all set differently for that. And then I do presentations, and in that presentation mode, I have to have all my monitors look a different way so that they're where I need them to be. And I can save these as presets, and all I can do is hit a button like, oh, this is preset 3, this is preset 1. Like I'm in preset 1 right now. If I do my presentation, I go into preset 4, Michael Krasny's preset 3, and I just hit these buttons, and all my monitors just change to where they need to be for that setup. And it's super convenient, and I can't believe I haven't. I can't believe I haven't recommended this before, and I've had it now. I've been using it now for 2 or 3 years, and I use it every day, and I change it every day, and it's well worn, and it's worked well. It goes up to 4K.
The sweetest things we have in this studio is a Blackmagic matrix that has
video router.
The video router. What does it have? It has. It's not Blackmagic. I thought we had a Blackmagic one. It was Graco.
We used to have a Blackmagic one.
Oh, we have a new one. I didn't even know about. See, they hide.
Is this an HDMI or SDI?
Not the KVM. I'm talking about
the video router,
the video hub, which is Blackmagic, right? And it has 72 in and 144 out. SDI. And it's SDI. Okay, I understand. It's not but it's amazing because. Especially when we had a giant studio pre this one, when we were in the brick house, you could route any input to any output. And so that's what this does, but only 8.
Just for HDMI.
8 to 8.
Only 8, but it's HDMI. There's no big, I mean, there are big routers that do more HDMI.
Well, this is a lot less
really
expensive. Yeah.
Like this is, I mean, like like we have 4 or 5 of the 40 by 40s. We want to move into the one. Blackmagic now has 120 by 120 in 4K, which is a big thing for us. But that's for an SDI workflow. This is all HDMI.
Well, we're all SDI here, but the new studio.
Well, all my work is in SDI, but
we're going to
HDMI
composite, I believe, is the
Super VHS. Join the club.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of your bonus features.
We lived large, didn't we? Now, Alex, you're living large. You're getting larger and larger with this office hours. And honestly, I really think we want to, as we reinvent what we do, we want to kind of emulate what you do. I like the idea of a clubhouse where people gather and we can talk about stuff.
That's what we do. That's all we do. We sit around talking about stuff. There's a whole bunch of us that talk. And the format is we are going to open up the doors and say, what are you guys interested in? And people ask questions and then we just answer them.
Right.
If we had to come up with something every day, that would be
it's brilliant.
Time.
Office hours global. Yeah. The only thing is you haven't figured out a way to monetize it yet.
I'm working on it. I think that it is, I get a lot out of it in the sense that I keep track of a lot of things.
Fantastic.
I meet a lot of people. I've been hired by people
it's good for your
system.
business.
I hire people from the system. People have built whole companies inside of office hours. And so it has other benefits to it than a direct monetization. So
I think that's what we want to do with Club Twit is make that be. That's how we would monetize it. It's a club. It's a clubhouse, and you pay $7 a month, and you're part of that. And you got to just kind of you're gonna help me set that all up. I think
I'm happy to any way I can help. So just let me know.
You're the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Officehours.global if you want to participate or watch. They have a YouTube channel, but go to the website. And if you want to hire this guy, 090.media. That's the place to go. There's no one better. The best in the biz. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
Really, really familiar apps at a really, really good discount. There's so we're all used to Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, kind of industry standard photo editor or bitmap editor, industry standard vector line art editor, and industry standard like page layout for printed stuff sort of thing. And those are subscription stuff, so basically it costs money forever, every single month. And in the face of that, Affinity has created apps that everybody's kind of familiar with by now. Affinity Photo, Designer, and Publisher, which do those same 3 things, but they are simple, like they're $90 each, and you own them for life. Okay. And they are available for Mac, Windows, iPad. They all run the same file format, so you can basically cloud sync between all 3. They're great. They're wonderful. And they did something super wonderful this week. They announced that because they're trying to get people to switch from Adobe, they realized that like a 2-week trial or a 1-month free trial is not going to cut it. They've extended it to a 6-month free trial. No restrictions. It's not crippled. You can save. You can sync the full versions of all of these apps. You can download them for free. All you got to do is sign up basically create an account on the Affinity website. That's all. And it's not like you deposit. Oh, by the way, give us a credit card because after 6 months, we're going to charge you for every single app you downloaded. No, they just simply will stop working. And the good news is after that, they will give you 50% off anything. So if you want to like keep all of them, you can get the Mac version, the Windows version, the iOS version, the iPad version of all of those apps for like $83. It's amazing. Just for the ability to have these apps waiting for you on your iPad, especially where you don't necessarily have like a really good vector app or don't necessarily have a good like photo editor app. Just have those things on your device and you will use it at some point, and then maybe you'll get hooked and maybe you'll realize that $9.29 to keep this version of this Photoshop grade app on your iPad is very much worth it. And I have to say, just winding up, like these are not like brand new, like upstart new developer has decided to create something as an alternative to Photoshop, and they're like they don't have enough features. They can't do the same stuff you can do in Photoshop. Obviously, they're not feature compatible between the two. There are a lot of things you get with the Adobe subscription that Affinity Photo, for instance, doesn't do, but 80 to 90% of anything you would ever try to do in Photoshop is covered here. Layers, text manipulation, like go through the list of stuff, and it's got it. It is a professional grade app, and once again, you use it for free for 6 months. And if you decide to keep it, it's not a whole lot of money, and it's not a subscription, so you can afford to have a really good photo editor that, even if you don't think you're going to be using it a lot every single month, really, really great stuff.
I've been using it for years, and I was excited. I was going to do that this morning, and I got up there, and Andy beat me to it. I was like, Andy.
It's too bad I already paid for it. So, but if you haven't, this
even
is
if you're in version 1 and you haven't paid for version 2, version 2 adds a lot of stability and features. So definitely worth. If you're in version 1, definitely download the demo for them.
If you're one of those people who was like is holding on to your last non-subscription version of like Illustrator, which is where I was. I bought Designer, and it's fantastic and does everything that I ever, I was reduced to using Illustrator in a VM because it didn't work anymore on my Mac current OS, but I still did it. And I got to the point where I'm like, what am I doing here? I bought Designer, and it's just like, oh my God, look, it's an app running normally, and it does everything I need, and it's reasonable, and it's great.
So Designer is page layout, right? It's like
Designer is page layout.
It's like
for printed publication.
InDesign. Right. And then Affinity Photo.
Designer is Illustrator.
Illustrator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's Vector. Designer is vector-based graphics.
Designer is Illustrator. Photo is Photoshop. Publisher is
InDesign. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if you're an Illustrator replacement, Designer's the way to go. And that was where I did all my, like, when I do t-shirts as merch and stuff like that, all that stuff I do, my podcast art ends up getting laid out in Designer. It's just really good. And I love Photoshop, and I pay for Photoshop, but I don't pay, again, with the way Adobe pricing works, if you want to use any of those other apps, you're basically tithing to Adobe a lot of money, and it's not worth it.
And I still use Photoshop, but I do as much as I can in Affinity Photo and Designer, and I still have Illustrator. And part of it is I keep on wanting to make sure that if it gets any more expensive, or I get, I don't really feel like I'm going back to it that often, that I still know how to use something else. I'm not going through a learning curve. There's still some stuff that I think Photoshop still has some generative AI stuff that I use every day. But I think that Affinity Photo is just, I use it probably 90% of the time, and it's just really great.
Is there anything that can take the place of Lightroom? Why don't they do a Lightroom?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, Lightroom, the fact that it is multi-platform, so I can start and edit. I can just be hanging out waiting for a bus or something, and just with my Android phone, download a raw file that I shot like 2 months ago, have some fun playing with it, and then when I get back home, pick up my MacBook and start editing it, continue it in Lightroom, and maybe throw it off to Photoshop. I don't think there's anything like Lightroom. That's the reason I don't subscribe to the full boat Adobe package, of course, but they have a photo package that's very, very affordable as far as I'm concerned.
It's like $120 and you get Photoshop and Lightroom, and that's what I pay for. It's the only part of their subscription package that I think is reasonable if you are not a full-time professional using all of those tools. And so that's
and also to defend the subscription, it has delivered in the sense that they keep updating and updating and updating these tools across the entire spectrum. And every time I launch Lightroom on my phone, and there's, hey, check out, I've updated the app, check out what's new. There's going to be something incredible in there. Like, I won't go into it, but it's really, really, really quite wonderful. It's the reason why I don't do gaming on my phone, because Adobe Lightroom is like, every time that all the time time I would be spending like just killing time or entertaining myself on my phone with a game, I do the same thing with Lightroom. But there's these affinity packages, though, they're perfect for even not even just for people who are not necessarily ambitious, but people who, again, don't want to commit to $10 or $12 a month forever. It's definitely, for heaven's sakes, download. It's affinity.serif.com. You have to just create an account and giving your email address. That's all. You don't have to give them a credit card or anything like that. Terrific.
Very nice. Glad you picked up on that one. That's a really good deal. Now, thank you, Andy. When are you going to be on GBH next, by the way?
This Friday, I'm going to be live at the Boston Public Library Studios. So it's 12:30. Nice. So if you show up there, again, it's a really nice cafe. Fridays are usually a lot of fun. Oftentimes they have musical guests in. So come on in and watch me try to find the intersection point between this is streaming on the site, so I want to make sure I don't look like a total wastoid, but it's freaking hot and I've got a long commute and I don't want to wear a jacket and a tie. It should be very, very funny, because when I try to make myself look good, it's really quite alarming. And if you can't go to Boston Public Library, go to wgbhnews.org, where you can stream it live or later.
Let Andy scare you in person. It's great fun.
Yeah.
Jason's
fun for everybody else, but for me, I'm not going to acquire that skill at this point in life.
Jason Snell, your pick of the week.
Pick of the week. This is if you're an iPad user and you use it, especially with an external keyboard, maybe, or you want to have it on a desk, or use it with universal control, or you want to, whatever, you want to attach it to a big monitor. If you use an iPad in those scenarios, and I do, this is a new version of something that I've actually used for a while now. It is a desk mount for the iPad called the Kushu X36 nice. Pro Max. This is the new version, and among the nice things about it, so it's got a clamp, so it goes on your desk. It's got a very sturdy arm that is adjustable, that will let you kind of put it anywhere and tilt it however you want. And my favorite feature of this one is that it has MagSafe pins on it and is now a charger as well. So when it's sitting in the dock, and you can fit it in because it's got the little camera cutout, so you know where it goes, then it actually will charge your iPad and let it kind of pivot around. And you clamp it to your desk, make it fit into your workflow. It could be as a side to your other stuff. You could use it as that sidecar external display for your Mac if you want to. There are a lot of different uses for it, but I do use my iPad in lots of contexts. Here's a super applicable use case, which is when I'm playing, wait for it, here it comes, Dungeons and Dragons.
Ooh.
I put my player sheet up on the iPad over here using that stand so that I can, we already established that, Leo. We're way past that now. I've got that there in D&D Beyond on the web browser, but just like sitting right there, separate from my screen, which I'm doing live streaming, and I've got the map up, and I've got all that stuff going on. And it's nice to have that second screen there. But also if I'm like writing at my bar stool, I can actually just put this on the bar really quick, to clamp it on, and then it's kind of hovering over my workplace as I sit there and write on an external keyboard. Lots of uses for it. You'll know it if it's for you, but I really like that it clamps anywhere, and it's got the charge now, so you're not going to end up being sad because your iPad is out of battery.
Aww.
Yeah. A stand or an arm like this is a really big deal if you have like an iPad, particularly when the larger ones, and if your main computer is like a MacBook, because you know that if you don't have the good ones, like you're only limited to one external display, and the ability to say, well, I've got my MacBook screen, I also have a nice larger screen, but then I also have a third display in the form of a sidecar on my iPad. That's like what kind of cracked it for me. I'm still looking forward to when I have like a MacBook that can have my desired 3 displays, but having like the iPad as an external display this way on an arm, it was like some of the cheapest money I ever spent. Most valuable use of money I've ever spent, basically putting this on an arm so I can actually have it suspended like right next to my main monitor.
I just bought one. Very, very handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kushu, Kuxiu X36 Pro, but you'll find it at kuxiu.co.
Look at all the gears in that hinge. I'm on the site. They have the exploded diagram of the hinge.
Oh,
that's a lot of parts.
It's solid. It's actually a little hard to move it. You have to put force in it, but that's because it's solid and sturdy. And exactly.
You kind of want to get it where it's going and leave it there.
It's not cheap. It's not wiggling around and stuff. Let me tell you, it is solid.
No wiggling.
Yeah.
Mr. Snell is at sixcolors.com. His podcasts are at sixcolors.com/Jason.
Indeed.
He is a busy guy. Plays D&D when he doesn't have other things to do.
Tune in tonight.
Tonight's the D&D night.
Tuesday nights.
Our
4 Dungeons and or Dragons.
What show is that? Is it a live stream?
That's Total Party Kill on The Incomparable. And we do a live stream on The Incomparable's YouTube channel. And then those episodes get put out immediately for members. And then we parcel them out weekly on the free feed for people to listen to after the fact, edited down, because people love it. It is this weird thing that, there are a million actual play podcasts out there now. We were one of the early ones before I think it even had a name, but it turns out people like listening to it. It's like a narrative and it's like an improv. It's a very loose narrative. There are jokes. So people like playing D&D, but it turns out people like listening too, because they get to get used to the characters and we make jokes and there's inside references. And
you know who joins him sometimes? Mr. Micah Sargent can be seen hanging out playing D&D.
He's playing on a lot of Tuesday nights, just not this Tuesday night.
Do you think you'd ever want to invite an old guy like me?
You want to play D&D sometime, Leo? We can do that.
I never played before. I feel like that's a real something missing from my resume.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there, which is before the studio goes away, what we should do is a Twit members extra where we play D&D at the desk.
Oh, in costume. Come here.
In costume. Are we going to do a one shot? Let's do a one shot. Yes.
What's a one shot?
Yeah, a quick adventure, a short adventure.
Oh, see, you guys are using lingo now, and I don't know the lingo.
Yeah, it's a lingo.
We'll do a one shot. And you're the DM?
Fun. I've never DM'd other than for my family before, but maybe we could find a local DM, or I could do it. Whatever.
We could maybe talk to someone. Maybe
it'd be a great DM.
Micah would do it. Micah would DM it. Micah would totally do it.
I want to get Daniel Suarez to DM it. That's how he got into writing sci-fi. The creator of Demon and Freedom TM and so many great books.
Anyway,
he started as a dungeon master.
Might be fun to do
let's
that.
See if we get Daniel on the horn. I mean, let's go blow it out with and you know what?
Blow it out.
We could do it on the last day of the studio, and if you want, you can
blow out more than Dungeons and Dragons. Leo?
You can have a giant conflagration. You could have a literal dragon.
Yeah, red dragon's going to come in and melt everything at the end. Yeah,
just burn the whole place down.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
House of the Dragon.
Did you watch on Sunday?
Yes. Oh, sure.
Finally, the big payoff. We've been waiting.
You've been waiting for dragons.
Waiting for 10 years to see the dragons.
Alex, suffice it, there's dragons. There's dragons.
There's dragons?
They have the big dragon battle.
Full of dragons.
It's the big battle, kids. It was very exciting. Well, that's about it for this week's MacBreak Weekly. We thank you so much for joining us. As usual, when there is nothing to do, it's a very short show. But we'll give you a longer show next week.
Told ya.
Thank you, Jason Snell. I'll see you soon. Thank you, Andy Anako. Same to you. And of course, Alex Lindsay, thanks to all of you who joined, especially those of you who are in our club. We really are grateful to you. Thank you so much. We love having this community and we want to keep going. Club Twit members, bless you. For everybody else, we'll be back right here next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch now live on all those platforms, YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook. I left out Facebook. Kick.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So please
Google
watch
Wave.
us live. Huh?
Google Wave.
We're going to do, we'll all do the wave.
Let's get on D&D Beyond. They'll be like, when do they start playing D&D? And the answer is never. They just talk about technology things. I don't know.
We never play it. We keep trying. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show are available for download. It's this thing called podcasting. Used to be really big in my day, in my youth. Twit.tv/MBW is the website. You can also subscribe. There's audio and video, by the way. And you can subscribe if you want in a little thing we like to call a podcast app. Find one if you can and download. We like Pocket Cast, but Apple has one. There's all sorts of different ones. But if you subscribe, it's free. You'll get it every week. The minute it's available. We thank you so much for being here. And now, as I have ended every show for the last 20 years, it's time to get back to work because break time is over. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.